Well, we get it rolling on the Krueger Show after Game 6 of the first round series between the Warriors and the Kings. After the second and third round of the NFL draft, Larry Krueger with you after Warrior basketball, after the draft on the Pig and a Pickle Krueger Show. Brought to you by Pig and a Pickle. Check them out. They've got 2 locations. They're in Corte Madera, open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. And they're open Wednesday through Sunday in Emeryville. Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Well, Warriors, Frank, well, we should let everybody know tonight, invited on the show were Bay Area Baller, Cyrus, Sots from Locked On, John Dickinson from 95.7 The Game. Also invited Danny as well. And, man, what can you say? The Warriors came out. They had a chance to put this thing away and instead put the Kings away and move on to the next round. And they were unable to do it. And Mike Brown made the necessary adjustments. The Kings took the lead early in the second quarter, and they didn't relinquish it. And Golden State goes for the 118-99 loss at home. And will this be the final game at the Chase Center for the Warriors? It will be if they lose on Sunday. Sunday at 12:30 Pacific at the Golden One Center, Game 7 of Kings Warriors. And it's Frank, it would almost be disappointing if we didn't get a Game 7 at this point, just because this series has been juicy. But man, very, very disappointing performance by Golden State. Baller, good to see you. Very disappointing performance, and credit Mike Brown for making the necessary adjustments.
Yeah, you have to give all the credit to the Sacramento Kings. They drove those 90 minutes down Highway 80 with a purpose, and it wasn't just to show up. They truly expected to compete and to win this game, and they played like it from the onset. I mean, they went up 8-0, and, they were just getting started. But when I look at the game, I think that, the Warriors kind of went to the well too often. Starting Jordan Poole opened up a lot of spacing for the Warriors offensively, but it gave Sacramento an opportunity to adjust. And you spoke to their adjustments earlier. Mike Brown just went small, and he went quick. And that advantage that the Warriors had offensively was taken away. And that energy boost that they got over the past couple of games in the second quarter when Draymond came in, they needed from the onset of the game. So I think these two teams are close. I think the Warriors are better. But this was an energy game. This was an effort game. And Sacramento won that game from the start, and they never trailed.
Yeah, one thing that jumped out to me was, Draymond came off the bench, third game in a row. But first quarter, Mike Brown went small, and he left Alex Len out of the game. And I think the intention was to kind of try to open up the floor for some of his perimeter players. Then you heard Mike Brown in that first timeout, imploring his young team, push the pace. They went small. They tried to play fast. Then Draymond picked up that third foul with about 7 minutes left to go in the second quarter. I thought that was significant. Kerr left him on the floor, but Sacramento led at the half by 7, and just really, they came out in the third quarter. It was an impressive performance by Sacramento. Sacramento won on the glass. They were plus 12 on the glass in the first half. Their bench lit up the Warrior bench. Malik Monk by himself was incredible, but at halftime, it was 28-10 Kings bench over the Warrior bench, plus 18 in the first half. And I'll give you one more, and then I want to hear what Baller has to say. Is Poole was bad. He had a 1 for 6 first half. He missed his first 6. But Golden State only had 8 assists at halftime, and they are a make an extra pass kind of a team, and they weren't making that extra pass. And 8 assists for a half of basketball, that's an obscenely low number for Golden State. So overall, you could see third quarter, Kerr was, imploring these guys, play smart. What happens? Moody gets a dunk on one end, and then boom, Harrison Barnes gets a bucket on the other end, and Kerr calls a quick timeout, and you can see he was livid. He had to invite Jordan Poole back to the bench, and it was like, Jordan, join us. So there's something going on there, but disappointing win. Now, disappointing loss, I should say, for the Warriors. Gut check win for Sacramento, one of the biggest wins in the history of their franchise, and it sets up Game 7 Sunday. Baller, what'd you see?
I mean, it was an extremely disappointing, frustrating performance by the Warriors. I mean, Frank talked about the slow start. They're down 8-0. They didn't get a bucket until 3 minutes into the game. So the Kings, I guess you got to give them credit. I mean, I saw the Warriors taking a lot of tough shots. The turnovers were adding up early. And defensively, I saw so many miscommunications that led to these open shots. And Larry, last game, you asked us what's an adjustment the Kings could make. And I said, play Trey Lyles instead of Alex Len. So Mike Brown clearly is watching this show, listening. So I can't be giving out any tips like that anymore. Mike Brown was listening, played Trey Lyles, who was extremely effective tonight. But Jordan Poole, I mean, he was bad. Not only was he bad offensively, but defensively, he's giving up blow-bys to the rim. Mitchell went right past him. He's giving up open jump shots. I mean, Jordan Poole was really frustrating to the point where I was saying, take him out and put in Moses Moody, which I don't think I've said all year, but just the way things were looking, I wanted Moody in the game. But Jordan Poole, it was definitely not his night tonight. I didn't think the Warriors played with enough urgency. It felt like the old cliche. The Kings wanted it more. That's what it felt like to me.
The Warriors missed 5 free throws in the first half. The Golden State missed 10 on the game. They made 25 of 35. They were +4 at the free throw line in total points, but Sacramento was 21 of 25. So Golden State was 25 of 35. You missed 10 free throws in an NBA clinching game, playoff game. 10 missed free throws.
They're tired. I mean, Steph missed 3.
Steph missed 3. Wiggins missed 3.
I mean, Wiggins, he's not a real good free throw shooter, but when Steph misses 3 free throws, he could shoot 70% blindfolded. So, he was tired. In the last game, he played 42, 43 minutes. I mean, the public doesn't know, but they probably do diagnostic body checks on these guys after every game. And, there were some telling signs, and Kerr had to make some judgments. And again, I think he kind of coached to his tendencies because, I always want Draymond to start. I mean, I understood that starting Poole did work. It opened up the spacing, but I'm at home in Game 6. I don't need that little cute advantage. I want to go with my guys. And I think not starting Draymond, I'm not Monday morning quarterbacking him. I just wanted Draymond to start because he brings that level of intensity when his other teammates don't have it. He has the ability to really put his finger on the pulse of the game. And like a caller, someone in the chat said Sac is better. I respect your opinion, but when I look at these two teams, Golden State is better. How much better? Not a whole lot because of the other variables, the youth, and Sac has a lot of talent. But if these teams are playing their best basketball, I think Sacramento is better. They needed Draymond in there to start the game.
That third quarter was really interesting. All of a sudden, Sacramento, Monk hits a 3, Poole hits a 3, Fox hits a 3, then Monk hits a super deep 3. And it's 84-73, and the Kings went up 11. I mean, they got hot in that third quarter. And then Draymond picked up his 4th foul, somewhere about 5 minutes left or whatever it was in the third quarter. Just a really Warriors were down 10 going into the 4th. So I mean, it's 26-11 for Fox. Sacramento wins the third quarter 32-29, and then they won the fourth quarter 28-19. You look at the one thing that jumped out is the Warriors got to defend and they got to be better in defensive transition. They got to be better defending the 3-point line. I mean, Sacramento was plus 21 at the 3-point line, and then you got to rebound. Golden State, Sacramento was plus 11 on the glass, plus 7 on the offensive glass. So that, both teams turned it over a lot. Neither team shot the ball well early. But I'll tell you, the one thing that also jumps out is that Sacramento had 14 more field goal attempts in the game. It's hard to win a basketball game when the other team gets 14 more field goal attempts. That to me is a significant number. Sacramento was plus 9 on the break. They were plus 8 points in the paint. I mean, when Golden State gets beat, they don't pass it enough. They turn it over too much. They had 19 turnovers tonight. Sac had 20, but they don't when they lose, they turn it over too much. They don't share the ball enough, and they don't rebound. They got beat bad on the glass. They got beat bad points in the paint, and then Sacramento's bench, led obviously by Monk, really led the way. So just a very Sacramento. The hardest game to get in any series is the clinching game. Tomorrow you're not going to put on your uniform for another year. You're going to go. It's a very powerful thing, and it's to have that edge on your opponent. I mean, 28 off the bench for Malik Monk. I'd love to know how many guys in the NBA this year went for 28 off the bench in any game. I bet you'd only happen 4 or 5 times all year.
Right. Well,
he's got some Lou Williams to him. Monk can get it going in a hurry. But what was even more frustrating to me was the offensive rebounds that the Kings got were killers because they're kicking out to wide open shooters. It happened. I heard Fitz say it on the bracket. It happened at least 6 different times, kicking out offensive rebounds to open shooters for 3-pointers. So I was extremely frustrated by that. And then offensively, there were a lot of no-shows tonight, okay? Steph had a good game. I thought Clay was okay, but, we talked about how ineffective Jordan Poole was. Andrew Wiggins wasn't his night tonight. Gary Payton gave you 0. DiVincenzo feels like he's been slumping most of this series. So there was a lot of no-shows tonight.
Well, you know what, though? I mean, you mentioned Steph and Clay. They made a few shots, but they were uneven. And they both had to work for a lot of stuff. And they were a part of those 18, 19 turnovers that the Warriors had. And like Larry's talked about it, you've talked about it, the lack of ball movement. I mean, they are a part of that. They had, 20 assists, and they had 18, 19 turnovers. That's not the Warriors. Sacramento had 25 assists. So that tells you right there, the ball movement, the body movement simply wasn't there. And I think Steph and Clay are a part of that. And I keep going back to fatigue. This team played tired with no energy. And that's when you got to play your young players. I give Kirk credit. He did put Moody in there, but he feels like he has to play Monk because Monk is a ball initiator. He's a point guard, if you will. None of those other guys are really, really capable of running the offense. So they need him to play well. And he played terrible tonight. It wasn't all his fault, but they needed a boost from him, and they simply didn't get it. You got to regroup now and just look at what you didn't do well tonight and really focus on getting the win on Sunday.
Senior softball game says, great game from the Kings. They put on a defensive clinic. I don't know if they put on a defensive clinic. I just thought they made some great adjustments, and they see, Mike Brown knows this team, and he knows the Warriors are an older team. The Kings' advantage is their speed, and they get up and down. And he pushed the pace on them, spread the floor, went small, matched their quickness. And, to me, the most disappointing thing is how many long rebounds went to Sacramento.
They were faster to the ball.
They were quicker to the ball all night. Quicker to the ball.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Frank.
No, it also bothered me because we're talking about defense a little bit, and the Warriors kind of underestimated Sacramento because they have not been shooting the ball well. But they shot the ball well all season. They were number 5 in 3-point makes or percentage throughout the season. And at some point, they were going to start making shots. And they make tough shots. But the Warriors' rotation compared to the last couple of games was like a 180. It was terrible. They were late. And those guys are making shots.
While this is, of course, going on, the NFL draft was going on as well, and the 49ers made a great first pick, drafting Jair Brown out of Penn State, safety, who's terrific player, MVP of the Rose Bowl this year against Utah, where he had 1.5 sacks, he had a pick, he had like 8 or 9 tackles against the run. Terrific pick. Then they followed that up, guys, with a pick of a kicker, which I hate taking kickers in the third round more than anything, because a lot of times I've seen highly drafted kickers bust. But Jake Moody is a clutch kicker, and he was the Lou Groza Award winner a year ago. And to me, he's got a big time leg. They're trying to move on from Robbie Gould. They're trying to find a kicker for the future, and they took Jake Moody. I kind of liked that one, but I really did not like the Alabama tight end. And I think Mel Kiper, who knows these guys really well, said it best. He's like, hey, he's a nice backup NFL tight end. I think so too.
Yeah.
I think he's a backup. He's a kid from Salt Lake City, 6'4", 240-pound tight end. And I just, I watched this film. I read the reports. Had a couple good games, but I don't see him as a dominating blocker. I don't see a dynamic player after the catch. I really don't. He's really lean in the lower body, so I don't see him as a big time blocker. And to me, I've seen there's way better tight ends in this draft. I thought the tight end from Bama was a bad pick. I really didn't like that pick at all.
Can I jump in?
Yeah, please.
Because the Warriors lost, right? And I know the Niners got some picks coming up. So I'm thinking, okay, at least the Niners are going to get me excited and kind of make me feel better, right? They take a freaking kicker. Okay. Now, this kicker, I know he was good in college, but like you said, it's a different ball in the NFL. Just sometimes it doesn't translate. Ask Aguayo. Right.
Roberto Aguayo was a second-round kicker, and he just bombed. And then there's been other kickers, too. The Niners, Wishnowski was a fourth-round pick as well. They kind of love – it's fine if, that's all you needed, but I don't think that's all you needed, Niners. So I'm not really getting that.
He's going to be under a microscope, right? If he needs to be hitting a high clip of these kicks. But then, okay, so now I've digested that we took a kicker, right? And then they go and they take Cameron Latu out of Alabama. Larry, I'm with you 100%. I watched this tape and I said, he didn't impress me. That's what I wrote down. I was unimpressed. In PFF, I subscribe to PFF. So what are their numbers on him? They gave him a 50 grade as a run blocker. So he's not moving people in the run game, at least according to PFF. So
plus he drops the ball. He's got focus drops. So there's a number of drops there.
I wrote that down too. His drop rate is 9.1, which is a high percentage of drops. So it was a disappointing draft pick. The kicker, if it turns out to be this spectacular kicker who's one of the top guys in the NFL, then maybe okay, it's worth it. But it's a lot of pressure on this kid.
Yeah.
Well, only 2 seasons, by the way. Jump in, Frank, but only 2 seasons for Moody as a kicker. He was very reliable on kicks shorter than 40, but he's not as reliable on the deep kicks. But he went 8 for 8 on field goals in tight wins over Nebraska and Illinois, and he was 4 for 4 in the college football playoffs. So a lot of people think he's clutch. He hit a 59-yarder against TCU in the national semi. But I don't know. The guy made just 66% of his kicks from 40-plus yards in the last 2 seasons, and he's a third-round draft choice for 66%? Really? And according to the reports, he's got a tendency to pull kicks from the right hash. Not considered to have a monster leg, though he has connected on some big ones, but. Wow. I don't know, man. I don't know. I'll go with the kicker and just say, hey, new special team coach. They're trying to move on from Robbie Gould. They like this guy. They think he's going to be a big-time guy. I know Harbaugh had a total faith in Jake Moody, so I'm okay with the kicker. I'm more okay with the kicker than the tight end. The tight end was just like, you got to be kidding me. There was at least 5 tight ends on the board that were better than him. Payne Durham, quite a bit better. Josh Wiley from Cincinnati, quite a bit better. I watched 5 games of Bama this year. He never really stood out. I don't see him as a dominating blocker. I don't see him as an incredible receiver. I think he'll make the team, but I mean,
Bama had him playing defense.
He's a backup kicker. He's a backup tight end. I mean, he's not. I don't think he's a number 1 tight end. I think he's like more of like a number 2 tight end.
No,
and number 2 tight end in the 3rd freaking round. That seemed really high.
Yeah, I think. I mean, I watched him too. I watched him about 5 or 6 games, and the thing that really stood out to me was he dropped easy balls.
Right.
One of the things that he did do though was he got down the field. He did get down the field, and oftentimes he would drop the ball, and he had some, he had some good catches as well. But if you look at him strictly based on the numbers, he doesn't jump off the page. So, I mean, I'm thinking that they see something in him. Maybe his drop seeds is something that they think they can overcome. Lack of strength. I don't know if you can do that by coaching that up, but I mean, maybe not in the 3rd round, but I'm interested in seeing him evolve in the 49ers system because I think that they do rely on their coaches to make players better. He probably went a little too early. With regards to the kicker, I mean, I've seen top-notch kickers in college just simply not make it in the NFL. So to me, I'm looking at it, I'm saying, is he cheaper than what Robbie Gould would cost?
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, so that's my mentality. I think they said they like him, they like his potential, and he's going to be cheaper. The tight end, no, he doesn't have a starter's look to me. He didn't have that in college either.
They loved him, though. They hosted him for a top 30 visit prior to the draft, and they obviously were impressed by him. He averaged 14.1 yards per reception, scored 8 touchdowns in 2021. He only had 4 touchdowns this year. I guess he had one of the highest catchable percentages in the draft. He caught 91% of his passes. They believe he's got soft hands, that he can make contested catches, that, he's versatile, that you can, line him up in line, you can flex him out. I mean, I do understand the desire to have a guy who can do it all, right? You don't want just a receiving tight end. I threw out Elijah Higgins as a receiver from Stanford who I thought would be good on a conversion. But, if you put him out there, he's a challenged blocker. This guy can do enough where if you put him in the game, nobody knows, it doesn't give away run pass. He can do enough as a blocker. He can do enough as a receiver to basically not give the defense a clear indication of your thinking. But I mean, this guy was a linebacker. He doesn't have that much experience. I don't know. I mean, obviously they like him, and I'll wait to see. Bama, he's probably a little bit bigger and stronger than their other backup tight ends, so he probably will be tight end too. I just don't see special traits. And to me, when you looked at the board of tight ends, I mean, there was just an awful lot of guys on the board who were really intriguing that are still there. Now, I've gotten in this position before with the 49ers where it's like, hey, I really didn't like a player they took in the 3rd round, but then they take a guy in the 6th round that, I think was a 2nd round pick. And, but I mean, just to give you an idea, I mean, Payne Durham, Josh Wiley, Will Mallory, Davis Allen from Clemson, Zach Kuntz from Old Dominion. I think these guys were all pretty much still there. And they went with this guy from Bama, who was the 11th rated tight end on Draft Tech. I don't know. I guess I'll have to just wait and see. He's a Salt Lake City kid, went to Olympus High School in Salt Lake City. He was a redshirt senior. He was a defensive end coming out of high school, and he was a 4-star defensive end, the number 2 player in the state of Utah.
He also played defense at Alabama.
Did he play defense?
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't know his stats, but just watching him play, I noticed that Bryce Young was getting the ball to him way down the field. And I think that from Shanahan's perspective, that is probably the most exciting thing about him that he can really open the offense up in ways that Kittle routinely does. So it'll be interesting to see him play.
He had a couple big games for sure, but nothing crazy. I mean, he was pretty good against Tennessee. I think he had 90 yards and a touchdown on 6 catches. But maybe it's just because Bama's got so much talent. But to me, I just kind of thought of him as just a guy. And then when I watched him, I was kind of looking for something that stood out, and I didn't really see a trait that stood out. I mean, he's tall. I would say he's a legit 6'4.5". And it's not like he's not athletic. He's pretty athletic. I could see him beating out Charlie Warner or Ross Dwelly for a spot on the roster. I'm not saying like this guy's not going to make the team. He should make the team, but I just don't see like special. And I thought Payne Durham, who's still left, the kid from Purdue, was pretty maybe in that special category. Mark Hope says, Larry Frank, baller, love you guys, respect. Thanks, Mark. Appreciate the donation there, bro. So I would say, and that's the thing about the draft, that you hit on some, you miss on some. And I'm not saying the guys that I like are going to be great and the guys that I don't like aren't going to be great. I haven't studied these guys like the Niners have studied these guys. And I have studied guys in the past where, I studied it as much as the team did. So I know when I haven't watched the film, and I haven't watched enough film on really any of these guys, but I did like Jair Brown. I did a whole video on him leading into the draft a few weeks ago because I sat there and I watched him several times this year. He was the MVP of that Rose Bowl against Utah. I thought he was the best player on the field. I mean, he had a pick, he had a sack and a half, he had 8 or 9 tackles against the run, and he was on the Bruce Feldman freaks list. So, and it doesn't bother me. To me, Jair Brown would have been a late first-round pick. In fact, one of the draft guys, I don't know if it was Daniel Jeremiah or which one, but somebody said he was the best safety in the draft. I really thought he was among the best safeties in the draft as well, and I loved his profile of collegiate production and elite athleticism. And you know what? The 4.65 40. Would I rather him be 4.45? Sure. But it doesn't bother me for a safety the same way I wasn't concerned that Hufanga ran 4.76 or whatever it was that he ran, because safety's an instinctive position. And if you have the instincts, you're going to play fast. And if you don't have instincts, you're going to play slow. So the 4.65 and the 40 for a safety doesn't bother me. If you have a slow receiver, a slow corner, slow defensive end, or that to me makes a bigger difference. The instinctive safety position, it's much more about how does the guy play, and this guy plays really well. So I love the Jair Brown pick. I can understand the Moody pick because they want their future kicker, though I think that's too high for a kicker. I would have waited a round for sure, maybe 2. I would have tried to make that in the 5th round. But there's just too many good players on the board to go kicker there. But the tight end from Alabama, I'm like, I just don't. We'll see. To me, nothing really jumps out about his game when I watched him that said, yeah, oh yeah, you got to have that guy.
There were a couple tackles there real quick before we get off NFL.
Blake
draft.
Freeland was there. A lot of people.
Freeland or Sal DeVary. I mean, I was penciling in one of those guys. Do you like either of those tackle prospects?
I do. I like Sal DeVary a ton. I mean, he played at Old Dominion, so you got to wonder about the level of competition, but he looked good in the All-Star games. Sal DeVary, absolutely. Now, I think he might be a 4th or 5th round pick, but Blake Freeland with his 40-inch vert and his athleticism, long arms, I thought Freeland would have been a perfect pick there, especially when you looked at how many teams in the NFC how many of the contenders went for edge rushers. That was another reason I thought the Niners would go offensive tackle, but I was really kind of more surprised they didn't go defensive end. Foskey went early to the Saints, so he came off the board. And I know there's great edge rushers all throughout this draft, so I'm not like, they're screwed. They're not going to get – they'll get an edge rusher. They'll probably get 2. They might even get 3. It doesn't bother me that they didn't go edge early, but I just didn't love the tight end from Bama, especially in the 3rd round. I thought total forgettable 5th round type value. I thought maybe even 6th round, and he goes in the 3rd. So obviously we didn't see it the same way.
When you watch Penn State play this year, Brown and Porter held their defense together, basically jumped off the screen at you. So he's going to be a hell of a player. The Niners got him into a second round. He's a starter, and he's a smart guy. So I like that guy. I don't follow like the film the way you guys do. I just use my eyes. And I play college football, and instinctively, I know what a football player looks like, and he plays off of instincts. And Penn State traditionally produces really, really smart players. So he's going to be, he'll be a good player for the 49ers.
Yeah. No, to me, I had him, circled as a guy who's, because to me, what you're really looking for is the one thing about the Niners too, this is a unique situation. They lost Jimmy Ward. They lost Emmanuel Mosley. Those guys are more than football players. Those guys are the leaders. Those guys are the alphas in the secondary. So you need some alphas. You need to reestablish a culture on the back end. So it's not just about getting a player. It's about a culture. And this is a culture kind of a player. This kid's from Trenton, New Jersey, very tough kid. And he just loves to play. He's got great enthusiasm. He knows how to play. He's a smart player. Just a guy who can get guys lined up and he can play. The other thing I like about him is that he can play a lot of roles. He can play the deep middle in a cover 3 where you're the single lone defender covering a ton of grass. He can play in the box if you want him to play in the box. But to me, what I like the most is just that he's both. He can play in the box and he's physical, but he's got enough coverage ability to play the deep middle. And so I think this guy could be your starting free safety. I would not be surprised at all if this guy took over for Tayshaun Gibson or beat out Tayshaun Gibson. I think Gibson's nice, but this guy's a better player all the way around. Also, I read somewhere that he wants to be a sports analyst someday. But this guy was a 4-year letterman at Trenton Central High School. He was a captain of the football team there. Then he goes to Penn State. You could see he was the leader of that Penn State defense, and he just played big in big games. He had a hand in 16 career takeaways as a Nittany Lion, 10 interceptions, 3 fumble recoveries, 3 forced fumbles. Finished his career with 10 picks at Penn State. So that's 12th all time in that program's history. So to me, I love the Jair Brown pick because he's more than a player. He's a culture player. He's a leader. He's a guy who's a tone setter. So he's going to be a key guy for them on the back end. And if Moody becomes the next Sebastian Janikowski, then fine. Then if he kicks for the next decade or more and becomes some long-standing great Niner, that's fine. But like Baller said, Roberto Aguayo went in round 2, and I think he washed out of the league. So you never know. The transition from college specialist to pro specialist is there. It's a little trickier than it appears. So we'll see how he transitions. If he has a good first year, that will be a great sign.
Let me ask you a question. What do you think about Michael Mayer? And the reason I asked the question is because
I love him.
Well, I love him too. But remember,
that's Larry's boy. Larry's been hyping Michael Mayer all offseason.
Seriously, I really love him.
Here's the deal about Mayer, though. It got to the point where he was so tired, and everybody in the stadium knew that Notre Dame was going to throw him the ball. And yeah, he would still catch it, but they just hovered over the guy. And I'm just kind of wondering, does he have the ability to separate from guys? Because I know he can catch. I know he's tough. But can he separate, from defenders, from really quick linebackers? He was drafted.
He led college football this year among tight ends with 9 receiving touchdowns, and many times the game plan was take away Michael Mayer. So, but I think it's a fair question, Frank, because when he did the workout on campus, he didn't run all that well. He didn't work out all that well.
And he had cut weight. What I had heard is he had cut weight just to run that 40 a tick faster. And Frank, you're not too far off because he did fall to the second round, whereas I felt like a lot of mock drafts I saw him going round 1. But so maybe some of the NFL guys had some of the same questions that you're proposing.
Well, the reason why I asked is because I played tight end. I played defensive end in college, and when you play tight end, you get up line of scrimmage. You got to have quick feet and strong shoulders because the defensive linebackers or ends, they're gonna punch you really, really quickly, and you either elude those guys or you have to outmuscle them to get behind them to get open. And there were times in which I watched him this year play for Notre Dame. He's clearly a stud, but I just wonder if the game wears on him to the point where he can't do it consistently because a lack of strength in his shoulders. I don't know. But that's watching him. That's one of the things that I was struck by, as opposed to the kid from from Napa, who's at Georgia, who's a complete stud.
Brock Bowers.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Nobody can guard that guy. He's like Steve. You can't guard him.
Well, it's funny, too. People were like, Dalton Kincaid went to Buffalo in the first round, but Dalton Kincaid's not nearly the athlete that Mayer is. I mean, Dalton Kincaid was a walk-on at the University of San Diego. I think he's kind of topped out as an athlete. I'll be very interested to see what he looks like at Buffalo.
I like Kincaid. I
liked him in college, but I don't know that there's a pro level to get to.
No, I really like Kincaid. This guy, he knows how to separate, and he's so coordinated is what I saw. I see him making these acrobatic grabs where the ball's thrown behind him. Like he's got tremendous hands. I think he's a savvy route runner. Like he's a pass catcher. Like I don't know how often you're going to put him in line and ask him to block a 280-pound defensive end, but as a big slot, I think he's a special weapon.
I just wonder, about durability and long-term on him because I think he's kind of topped out. I think he's getting the most out of his ability right now. As far as Mayer, he set the school record for touchdowns for a tight end, and then he broke it this year. He had 9. He led the team. He had 67 catches, 809 yards receiving. He set the Notre Dame record for tight ends in a single season as far as receptions and receiving yards, and he's the Notre Dame all-time leader in all 3 categories for the position. So they compare him to Jason Witten. Witten's Hall of Famer. I thought he was one of the safest picks in the draft, but once again, the workout in South Bend was not great. And he's not like a home run hitter after the catch. But what I love about him is just that every time I watch Notre Dame, this guy just made big play after big play, and he can block on the line of scrimmage. It's not like he's a finesse guy. Like I like Kincaid a lot as a receiver, but as far as a receiver and on the line of scrimmage, I'll take Mayer. And it was weird because like Darnell Washington, who looked great at the combine, made one of the most amazing one-handed catches you're ever going to see. I think he went really late on the 3rd round to Pittsburgh. I mean, he went a lot later than a lot of people thought he was going to go.
Oh, I think some kind of injury thing came up with Washington. That's what I had heard. That might be due to why he slipped later because he's a good player.
Yeah,
I think Mayer's going to be a solid football player.
Where did Mayer wind up with who got him? Dallas passed on him. The Raiders. That's right.
Raiders got Mayer. Oh wow, that's good.
Yeah, they got him, and they had traded Darren Waller to the Giants in the offseason. Right. So this is the replacement. So now Jimmy G. This is Jimmy G's guy now right here, Michael Mayer. He should be good in that dome.
Yeah.
I think that, yeah.
I mean, the biggest asset for tight ends, you're either a devastating blocker or you got to catch the ball. And you got to catch the ball in traffic. You don't necessarily have to get way down the field, but when you know you're going to get punched, you still got to catch the ball. So if Mayer is a reliable pass-catching tight end, then he's going to do fine. Because a lot of guys, when they get hit, no matter how highly they're rated at that level, and they start dropping the ball, see you later.
Yeah.
You're going to be alone.
Tim Donaghy's says, Krug, kicker at 99, shaking my head. Oh, my God. Roberto Davis says, what happened to the Dubs in 5, Larry? Yeah, not looking too good. Not looking too good. We welcome in a man who is locked on Warriors. Cy, we've been talking NFL draft. We've been talking Warriors. Rough game. I had a couple people send me texts after the game saying, Crew, can you do me a favor and just only talk about the draft because how bad the Warrior game was? But you've been locked on Warriors, and what kind of reaction were you getting from the people who were tuning in for the show?
There's people telling me I was right. For anyone who hates on Kuminga, Steve Kerr got out coached. Mike Brown made very basic adjustments, and Steve Kerr just sat there with his thumb in his mouth and did nothing. And this is what happens. Now we're at Game 7. It's embarrassing. There was no effort, there was no energy, and instead of making adjustments, instead of going into your reserves and following the adage of strength in numbers, which has been tried and true this entire dynasty, Steve Kerr stuck with the old and tried. And the result is now a Game 7 where anything could happen and the dynasty could be over in 2 days. It's crazy. It's messed up. Misery loves company. That was my message to my audience.
What didn't you like from Kerr? Let's focus on Kerr for a second. Because to me, one of the things I really didn't like was I didn't like Jordan Poole. I didn't like how wild he was with the ball. I didn't like the fact that he was getting as many minutes as he was getting. I mean, it seemed like at one point, Cy, what did you think when Kerr said, "Jordan, why don't you get in here"? Did you see that?
Yeah,
What's going on there?
He trusts him. It's just one of those things where Steve has his people he trusts, and Jordan Poole is in his inner circle. And regardless of what he does, it takes a lot for Steve to yank him. And there's a lot of stuff going on. I mean, tonight sucked because Game 6 Clay's dead, right? That's a tough one to swallow, but we all have to accept that. Game 6 Clay is over. If that man expects a max extension after this year, he's out of his mind. I'd be happy with $25 million a year. But he's not the player he was anymore. It sucks. I love Clay. It breaks my heart to say that, but it's true. But the Jordan Poole thing is nonsensical, man. Why did he play 27? Did Jordan Poole play more minutes than Draymond Green? I know Draymond Green was in foul trouble tonight, but maybe you're a little overly cautious there. 25 minutes from Draymond is a joke. I thought Gary Payne II not coming in until the 10-minute mark of the second quarter was a joke. You saw immediately that the Kings made an adjustment. Alex Len was out of this series, right? Or at least out of this game. And I don't think we're going to see him in Game 7 either. So what does Kerr do? Nothing. He waits longer to bring in Gary Payne II. And Gary Payne II played 10 minutes. 10 minutes. I don't know what was going on, man. The whole team was off. But, shit rolls from the top. I firmly believe that. You give credit where credit's due when it's successful. But when it's bad, you fucking point the finger right at the top as well. And Steve Kerr did nothing, man. He's the general of this team. He's in charge of who plays and who doesn't play. That's a massively huge responsibility. And tonight he decided that Jordan Poole and Dante DiVincenzo together should play 45, 46 minutes. And simultaneously, your two of your biggest, most athletic long players, JaMychal Green and Jonathan Kuminga, continue to rot in purgatory, despite the fact that the one game they actually played was also, not coincidentally, the one game where the Warriors blew the Kings out. This Kings team is young, they're energetic, they're athletic, they're running the Warriors off the court, and you need to counter that with bringing your younger, more athletic personnel in the game, and Kerr is not doing that. The why, I don't know, man. I can't read his brain, but it just sucks.
I think you're spot on, Si. I mean, we actually talked about the youth advantage that Sacramento had, and that was the one adjustment that Mike Brown couldn't make. We sat here and we said, well, what could he do differently? You know what? I can run the Warriors' asses off the court with my younger, more athletic players. He even put Thomas in the game. I mean, Davis, excuse me.
Terrence Davis.
Yeah, I mean, he hadn't played in a long time, and he was kind of clumsy defensively, but he did provide a sense of energy for Sacramento that the Warriors wasn't able to match with the reserves that they made. At least he played Moody, and Moody once again served him well. He played but I mean, that trick of starting Poole at the start of the game, it did not work. This was an energy game. He was slow to acknowledge that, and he kind of he didn't put Draymond in until maybe 7 or 8 minutes into the game. I mean, instantaneously, he needed to know that, Draymond, go be Draymond out there because we need you. And that just didn't happen.
Yeah. People were asking me, what do you expect in terms of changes for Game 7, right? And I could tell you what I would do, but then I have to tell you what I think Kerr's going to do. And I do think I'm confident one change we're going to see is Draymond starting. Because Kerr, if this ship's going to go down, I think we're going to see the veteran core go down with Kerr in the process. I don't know, man. I'm not feeling like super afraid about Game 7. I don't know if that makes sense or not. Like, I still have confidence.
Because they've won there in Game 5.
Yeah, but at the same time, man, they could lose, man. Game 7s, anything could happen. I know that's cliche, but it's true. It's single elimination, dude, and it sucks that the Warriors are in this position. It's wild. It's crazy. It really is. Like,
you know, it's funny. JD's been just talking endless trash about you know, Kuminga doesn't deserve to play in this series, and you know, Kerr doesn't need to play Kuminga, but I don't know who needs to play. But all I gotta say is the Warriors look bad. They look bad. They look bad. They didn't bring. You didn't need to bring a level of play when you're trying to end somebody's season that is big. And I don't know. I mean, the crowd seemed kind of lackluster. The vibe seemed kind of weird. It just didn't seem like a closeout. You know, we are here to close these guys out, and no other result is going to be acceptable. It was like, we got 2 games to win one. We're the champs, and I got to go home and polish my championship ring, and you know, we'll get it done. You know, we'll get it done. You know, the old saying, "There's no easing into a street fight," and it's like they just kind of, you know, it's like we're just gonna kind of cruise around, and we're gonna be able to beat this super desperate Kings team that made adjustments and hit the ground running. I mean, how about Sabonis, the abuse that he took? Look at the eye. I mean, that eye looked bad. I mean, I wonder if he's going to be able to even see on Sunday.
It's crazy that he's irrelevant in this series.
Totally irrelevant.
The Kings Mike Brown made a simple decision. We don't need size to beat the Warriors. We have Malik Monk is playing out of his fucking mind, man. Like, it's insane. And that's one of the reasons why I thought Dre playing 25 minutes was absurd. I mean, Dre is one of your best defenders. He's one of the greatest defenders ever. And you're only playing him 25 minutes? I mean, he was the answer for in Game 4. He was the answer for De'Aaron Fox. I mean, they had to put him on De'Aaron, and you're playing. I don't understand the 25-minute thing. Again, I know he was in foul trouble, but I think he had like 3 fouls in the fourth quarter. So I still don't understand how he only played 25. The start of the game was nuts. The 5 o'clock thing was just totally unfair from the NBA because you really took a huge part of home court advantage away from the Warriors, man. This is a home crowd that all season it was either 12:30 or 7. And now you're throwing a brand new time, 5 on a Friday. You're killing the energy for the first half. Did you see the commercial, by the way, in the first quarter? The promo commercial that
no.
ESPN ran a commercial in the first quarter, hyping up Game 7, Warriors, Kings, 12:30. And it just had one little. The narrator never once said if necessary. There was one if necessary written on the screen. That's insane.
They wanted 7. They wanted 7.
Yeah,
the league wants 7. Yeah, I mean, it's fun. I mean, it was very frustrating. Brian Iglesias, 95.7, Brian says, I'm trying to be objective as possible, but tonight was a gutless performance from the Warriors on both ends of the floor. And if that's not the worst chat, I got this super chat from some guy named Chris Krueger, who's
that's your brother?
Says, light the beam, Larry. Fuck!
On that cheap
goddamn beam.
For that? You only give your brother $2? Come on, man.
$2 for light the beam? I should have just revoked it. Shouldn't have even read it. God. This guy's a judge. This guy's probably making big coin. He gives me $2. Doesn't mean throw in an extra penny.
$1.99, man.
$1.99 for light the beam. That's probably how much they paid for that beam was $1.99. Oh man!
Type that in $1.99. He could have typed $2, right?
Look at this guy. Mark Hope can give me that extra fucking penny. Love the kicker pick. What the fuck you want to do? Pay gold $6 million?
About the Niners. What the Niners do, man? Can you enlighten me? We can change the subject.
They took an awesome safety named Jair Brown, safety from Penn State, as their top pick in the 3rd round. They actually traded up from 102 to 87, and they picked Jair Brown. And I liked it. Okay. Why? Because the Steelers were coming up a few picks later. They were going to take him. I mean, the Steelers, come on, in-state guy from Penn State, as accomplished as this kid was, MVP of the Rose Bowl. I mean, he was one of the better players in college football. One of the draft guys, I think it was Daniel Jeremiah, said best safety in the entire draft. So I love the Jair Brown pick. Then they go kicker at 101. And I got to be honest, I hate going kicker on day 1 or day 2 of the draft. Hate it.
With you.
Hate
Totally
it.
with you.
Why? Because we've seen second-round kickers bust. But I got buddies who are Michigan fans who texted me and my crew, you don't understand. Harbaugh loves this kid and this and that.
Oh.
But I don't know. I mean,
So that's
you had Robbie Gold. You had Robbie Gold yesterday, a year ago, last year, and he never missed in the playoffs. And all you had to do was pay him an extra $500,000. But instead, you have to use your 3rd-round pick on a kicker to replace him. I mean, that was just like, you got to be fucking kidding me. But at the same time, I'm okay. Then the 3rd pick was Cameron Latu from Alabama, who's a tight end that they like, but this was a great tight end draft, and I think this kid's a good athlete, but if he's, let's just say this, if the guy's really good, he will have been significantly better than what he was at Bama, because at Bama he was just, he didn't stand out. He's a good athlete, no question about it, but I don't know. To me, we'll see how he plays. I can't really. I don't love it because I love the tight end class, and there were several other guys I liked. But they looked at these guys, they met them all, they interviewed them all, and they liked this guy. So we'll see. But that to me seemed like a little bit of a reach. I thought he was like a 5th-round pick.
I haven't heard Eric say a word, man. You doing all right, brother? And what are your thoughts on the Niners, man? I mean,
it was a frustrating night for me. You spoke about the Warriors. It was just a disappointing performance. I thought the Kings just played with more effort. I said it looked like the Kings wanted it more. And then after the Warriors game was over, the draft's on, the Niners had a couple picks. I'm like, all right, I'm excited. And then they go and they take a kicker, and then they take a tight end who, I do like to evaluate some prospects, some of these draft prospects in the tight end position. I scouted really hard. Spent a lot of time evaluating these tight ends, and I got about 5 guys I like more than Cameron Latu, who I literally wrote down does not impress me. 9.1 drop rate. So it was just
it was a vintage tight end class. I mean, that to me is the frustrating part. It was a vintage tight end class. Michael Mayer, Dalton Kincaid, Darnell Washington, Sam Laporta, Luke Musgrave. Now, granted, all these guys were gone. Tucker Kraft. But once Kraft went and Schoonmaker was gone, I would have waited. But to me, they wanted to get that tight end, and this guy was on the board I was looking at. He was like the 12th rated tight end, and I just thought, And then when I watched him, I wanted to, get a feel for the essence of the football player, and I see a pretty good athlete. No question about that. I mean, he's 6'5", he's 245. He's a pretty good athlete. Like, I definitely think he will be the number 2 tight end. But that's not saying a whole lot. I mean, Ross Dwelly is just a receiver, kind of underpowered blocker. You saw Croft get beat up in the playoff game by Hassan Reddick. Charlie Warner is a try-hard blocker, but he doesn't do a whole lot. I mean, he doesn't get tons done in the run game, doesn't get tons done as a receiver. This guy probably has more potential than those guys, but I just thought he was okay. I mean, like, I watched him. I spent 20, 25 minutes looking at his film, and, he moves pretty good, good size, but, he dropped the ball. He's kind of linear in the lower body, so he's not really a big drive blocker. He's a little top heavy, but, we'll see. We'll see what he looks like this summer. I'll hold off. The one thing about it is some of these guys from Bama and Georgia and LSU they get on a roster with so many great players that they don't necessarily stand out. And then you get them in camp, and you're like, wow, this guy looks pretty damn good. Yeah, he didn't stand out on Alabama's field with all those 5 stars, but maybe he'll surprise us. Maybe he'll surprise us. But he was a defensive player that they moved over to tight end, and he had some drops, so the hands are kind of inconsistent. I don't think he ever had 100 yards receiving in a game. He's not a dominant inline blocker. He's kind of an underpowered inline blocker. So I just don't see it. To me, there were better players.
What are the positives? By the way, I love baller and a kicker. Just the way you said that, dude, was awesome.
Just with total disdain.
Yeah, just
kicker. The only thing worse would be a punter. They drafted a punter. They did draft a punter in the 4th round a few years ago. Mark Hope says Kings 40% field goal percentage, 38% from 3. Ball game. Where were the fans? I never blame the fan. I don't blame the fans.
The 5 o'clock thing sucked, dude. That's just bullshit, man. 5 o'clock, like and now the Lakers are just cruising apparently, like with their 7:30 normal start time. All the fans got there on time. It was messed up, dude. I don't know why they did that to the Warriors. I don't remember ever seeing a Western Conference playoff game start at 5 p.m. That's just bizarre, dude.
I'm gonna tell you why they did it. The reason why they did it is because the networks expected the Warriors to win. That's why they did it, and they wanted to get the Lakers in there too. And they knew that LeBron needed a little more time, and they flew across country. The Warriors didn't. With all of the challenges the Warriors had to overcome, we all expected them to win Game 6.
Yeah,
and they didn't do it. So
yeah,
Artur Gazarian says, "Dude, you guys are way too negative about the draft. We still have plenty of picks to go, and let's wait and see how these first 3 picks shake out. This team drafts well in the later rounds. Have faith." All right. I mean, nobody's jumping ship. I mean, I'm not walking around saying, "Hey, let's go Texans." You know, I'm switching my allegiance. I don't think that logo over Baller's right shoulder there doesn't say Rams. You know, I mean, these flags over my head here don't say Arizona Cardinals. I don't think anybody's jumping off the ship. But at the same time, you know, I created this channel so people could actually be honest and give their honest opinion. And if we ever give you anything but, it's time to end it. So Mark Hope says Latu was a student at tight end U with Kittle. All right, so maybe Kittle likes him.
I like that.
So maybe yeah. Well, what he means is Kittle's got his thing in Nashville every June, is it? And he gets together with these other tight ends. So he invited Latu. So he's buddies with Kittle. And Artur says, Jake Moody's a rare kicker. Go see how many of those kicks, part of the low percentage, were 50+. We also need good, strong kickoffs.
Fair. That's fair.
All right. I mean, come on.
A draft pick, though, that's crazy, man. That's insane. I've never understood how, like, it's hard to find kickers. Like, I feel like if I had even, like, any leg strength, like a soccer player, all I would do is spend a year of my life just kicking footballs through uprights and just get really good at that. And then just be a kicker. Is it really that hard, to kick a football through uprights? That's always blown my mind, man. I don't know. Maybe I'm in the minority of that, but
Moody's reputation was that he was reliable on kicks inside of 40, but he was less consistent from the longer distances. He's capable on kickoffs and strikes the ball with consistency, so he should get a shot to compete for a roster spot. But you're talking about a 3rd-round pick. And when they went into the weaknesses, you're talking about a 3rd-round kicker, and for weaknesses at NFL.com, they say doesn't have a booming leg, made just 66% of his kicks from 40+ over the last 2 seasons, and has a tendency to pull kicks occasionally from the right hash. So, I mean, you can be as positive as you want, but, I mean, a kicker that you're questioning his leg strength and you're taking him in the 3rd round, you know what? Show me. I'm the state of Missouri. Show me.
Where's Dan and Ryan, by the way, man? Where are those 2 guys?
I don't know where Danny is. Danny got invited. Rice said that he was going to join us, and then said he's not ready to talk with such anger because he's so angry.
I don't blame him. I don't blame him.
He's like he wanted to take a break on the anger, and I invited Danny, but I'm not sure. Maybe Danny's doing something else. Let's see. We've got this one from Luke Loon. I bet Warrior fans think Sabonis was acting when he got hit in the eye. I think it's pretty clear.
It was obvious. Yeah, it was obvious.
Yeah.
He didn't grab Looney's leg, so he just got hit.
Yeah, listen. A sneaky big play also was when Kerr didn't challenge the Draymond charge of the foul call on Draymond. When he clearly didn't foul the guy. In retrospect, I think it was on Moody. I think not Moody. I'm sorry, Monk. And Monk went to the free throw line and made 1 of 2. But that was a pivotal play because Draymond got another foul, and the Warriors were kind of probably 5 or 6 points at that particular juncture of the game, and I get saving your challenges. The NBA has to change that rule because it's totally off balance.
Let them keep one. If it's successful, let them have another one. Like, I don't. It is messed up. But I'll say this too. I don't know if you agree or not, but Kerr, I feel like more times than not, has kind of botched the challenges. Like, he tries to save him until the very end, which is smart. But then, like, sometimes, like, he'll just hold on to him too long. And when there's been a few plays that he probably should have used them, and then by that point, it's like a waste. And I don't know if you agree with that sentiment or not, but I haven't seen him use those most efficient way. I don't know.
I've always been of the mindset saving 2 points early in the game is just as valuable as saving it late. I know some people probably don't agree with that, but yeah, because feels like there's plays that you feel like the Warriors would win the challenge, and then they don't challenge it, and they don't get a good opportunity to win a challenge later on. So it ends up staying in his back pocket, or they kind of waste it.
I think the league needs to help the players and it help the coaches, because this one challenge, okay, you made the right decision. You get the ball, but you lose your challenge. It doesn't make any sense.
Mark Hope says Jair Brown is Huff 2.0, plays the slot 2. Great pick. So Mark Hope likes that pick. Russell Peterson said, Larry, what's on your face? Egg? Well, because I said I said Trey Lance would be traded this weekend, and thus far he's still here.
Big fucking
which
deal.
is kind of like, at this point, a little surprising, but it also is surprising that nobody wants Trey Lance.
Is it surprising though? I mean, like last year,
yeah, I think it is.
Saying Jimmy G
third
was
pick in the draft.
I
mean, he was the third pick in the draft not that long ago.
Yeah, they're not going to just give him away, right? I mean, if you're going to trade him, it's got to be something good, I would think, right?
Yeah, and we'll see. We'll see where it goes. I mean, they cleared a bunch of cap room today. I'm not sure exactly what that's for. We'll find out. I mean, we're going to find out. There's tomorrow's another day of the draft, and who knows? Will they keep him? Will they move him? If they're keeping him, it's been a weird off season, because they've sure sounded like they've wanted to move him. But if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, and I'll own it, and I'll take Ryan Hensley to lunch.
I've been on a lot of your shows where you've made the case. Logically, it makes perfect sense. I heard that attribution you're referring to with the GM. I'm just brain farting. It's Friday night.
John Lynch?
Lynch. Yeah, where Lynch, like, literally, he was like slipping in code in his press conference about Trey Lance, using verbiage like he's not even a part of the team anymore. And
well, he's available. He's available. It's just a matter of, I'm surprised nobody went and wanted him. That's surprising to me.
I think Lynch's reputation and Shanahan's reputation has preceded them at this point. They don't want to get Danny Ainge. You know what I'm saying? Because they wanted a first-round pick for Trey. I believe maybe they would settle for a second. I don't know what people were offering him, but I think that teams were interested in him, but they were not interested in acquiring him on Lynch's terms. And I think when you use the resources that the 49ers used to draft him, then you want to feel that you got something significant back. And, these are poker players, Nobody wants to give in right away when you don't have to. So I think that's why Trey Lance is still on the 49ers.
We have 330 people hanging in the chat. And this is the problem, when you have two major sporting events that end at the same time. I listed this as a Warriors show, and so now we've got people like Tammy, who's like, I'm going to split. Enough of the Niner talk. The second and third round of the NFL draft just ended. The NFL is the biggest sports story in the Bay Area, in the nation. The Niners have probably 3-4 times the audience of the Giants and the Warriors probably combined. I mean, there's more people. Oh. Yeah, I mean, the Giants and the Warriors audience combined is probably not as big as the Niner audience. But we're so the draft just ended, and so we have people that are tuning in wanting to hear the draft talk, and then the Warrior game just ended, And so there's a lot of people that want to hear the Warrior talk. Luckily, the Giants don't play at all today, so there's no chance of us talking any Giants, not that there would be anyway, with two primary, like a playoff game and a draft. But the draft, you got to remember this. The draft is the Super Bowl of the offseason, and tons of people watched it. Way more people watched the NFL draft today than watched this Warrior playoff game. So I get you for the people who are like, hey, man, Warriors. But, how many times can you say they fucking sucked? How many times can you say that they didn't step up in their moment? How many times can you rip Steve Kerr and talk about Game 7? I mean, we're gonna get more into it, but we got to balance a little bit of the Niners and a little bit of the basketball. And I get you. If you're like a Niner, if you're like a Warrior person through and through, and you can't stomach that, there's the door right there.
And Ron Holder is correct, by the way, that losses are bad for business, Larry. Like my numbers for Locked On Warriors, following a win versus loss, it's drastic. Losses are bad for business, and it sounds like the Niners.
Really, they used to be great after baseball games when they would lose. No, but ultimately, I mean, I want we'll talk about we're not rushing off here. We're going to finish up and talk more about the Warriors. It's not like we're done talking Warriors, but this Warrior thing was a gut punch, and it was depressing as hell. And personally, I kind of wonder about Jordan Poole's future with the Warriors. He just seems like a guy that would be an easy guy to trade in the offseason. Like, he ain't worth that cash they paid him. There's no way he's worth that. I don't care what kind of 25-game stretch he had with Steph out. He ain't worth that money. And now, you kissed off Wiseman. You brought in, GP2. You may or may not win a title this year. We'll see. But now you get Jordan Poole at $35 million. It's one of the most overpaid bad contracts in the NBA. You're going to have a hard time moving him, and yet do you want him as a $35 million? When is Jordan Poole ever going to be like the Warriors' best player? And he's going to be the highest paid player at some point, right?
But he still might end up being a really good player. He's very young.
He's all right. He's all right. I mean,
he's 23. He did average over full season over 20 points a game. Bad players don't do that. I don't think he's a bad player. He's just not worth that money. He's not worth $35 million a year.
He's been bad. He's been bad this series. I can tell you.
He's been bad this series,
postseason. Right. This is coming into the game. He's shooting 37% from the field, 22% from distance, and he was awful tonight. So those numbers are going to plummet even more. He's been awful. That contract might be so bad that if you want to trade it, you might have to attach like a draft pick to it. It might.
I was going to say, you're right.
That's bad. That's bad.
That's how it's looking right now. And I have a question I wrote down. I wanted to ask you guys. Game 7. Who do you guys want getting more minutes? Who do you want on the floor? Jordan Poole or Moses Moody? Who do you trust right now? I can tell you.
I want Kerr to have a quick hook on Poole. I want to start with Poole, but if Poole doesn't have it, do not belabor it. Do not let him be 0 for 8. If he gets to 4, pull him. Don't let him shoot you out of Game 7. You can't. It can't happen. And let's just not circle only on Poole. Steph Curry was shit tonight. I mean, he was absolutely shitty. That third quarter turnover where he turned it over, where he just threw it to nobody, he got real wild with the basketball. I thought Steph had 3 or 4 truly ugly sequences. It's not just Klay Thompson. Steph Curry had some real rough spots. I mean, he was sloppy with the ball. Curry only wound up with, he had 5 turnovers? He had 5 turnovers.
And again, Stephen Curry is a huge example of why, like, some people love assist to turnovers. The assist to turnover ratio is a stat to judge a player. Like, I've never been big on that stat just because of Stephen Curry, because that's part of the game with him, man. He will turn the ball over pretty consistently, but he makes up for it with so many big plays. Look, Steph tonight looked tired. His shot was fine though. He shot 9 of 21 from the field. Good.
I just thought he was careless with the basketball on the open floor.
Yeah, he wasn't tight. I mean,
he made some ill-advised angle passes, like
Yeah,
where there's
it's okay.
bodies everywhere and he's whipping it through. I expect that from Green a little bit because Green forces the action, but from Steph, I really don't expect that. And when I see those kinds of turnovers, especially in the second half, I mean, Kerr had just said, "Hey, we just need to get 3 stops in a row, and we'll be fine." And I think he turned it over twice in the next 4 sequences.
They didn't get those stops. I heard that too. They did not get those stops. I mean, it's one of those things where it's like you have to live and die with what he does because, if you don't play him, you're screwed. There's no way around that. Like he will turn the ball over. That's just part of his game, unfortunately. You're right though. Tonight he was sloppy.
He was minus 16.
There was nobody on the team. You're right. There was nobody on the team outside of Moses Moody who you could actually compliment. I think everyone sucked. Everyone sucked.
Yeah, and nothing. Let me finish up, Si. Go ahead. Go ahead, Si.
No, I'm done. I'm sorry. Go ahead, man.
No, it's just that, I mean, Curry tends to have a lot of turnovers in a very short period of time also. And it's either he's a little disinterested, depending upon the teams that he plays. The one consistent thing about Steph is that when he has a barrage of turnovers, it's against bad teams and it's against good teams. Now, when I look at him, he's tired, Larry.
He looks tired. He looked totally fatigued today.
I mean, he is.
Let me ask you guys this. Is the schedule, was it 3 games in 5 days? Is that what it is?
I mean, from game 5 on, it's every other day. That's typically how the playoffs go.
Do you think that schedule is now starting to catch up with them a little bit?
No. That's a huge reason why I was dreading game 7.
They don't even have to fly.
I know. I mean, there's no travel, really. I mean,
that helps.
I mean, it matters, but when your heart rate is not pumping like you were when you were 22, you notice it.
Yeah, we noticed it with LeBron. What was game 5? I mean, definitely, man. He wasn't the LeBron that we know.
And plus, in this particular game, the referees kind of went back to game 1 and 2. They were hanging on him. Those guys are like a sport jacket on Steph Curry tonight. So it's going to take a team effort. And like you guys are speaking to, Curry's going to have to be a co-star in game 7. He's going to have to do something to help this team because just throwing the regular guys out there playing Jordan Poole, 25 minutes a game or
20,
DiVincenzo. I mean, they're going to need everybody, but how you mix up the pieces is going to have to be a little different than what they have been playing over the last couple of games.
Yeah.
808 Niners says, don't know what was worse, the Warriors or that awful draft. Jesus, play Moses more minutes, please. Poole needs to play like 15 minutes next game. Jaime Contreras, 49ers draft is whack. There you go. Mortigan said, this season should be called the fuck around and find out season. Spencer Alsey said, the Bagley trade for Trey Lyles, very underrated. Yeah, Lyles played well, man. Lyles shot the ball, especially in that corner, in front of the Kings bench.
And part of my massive ire with this whole Kuminga being banished and not seeing minutes is you can't convince me that Keegan Murray, that Trey Lyles, they're not better than Jonathan Kuminga. I'm not going to buy that. And if Kuminga can match up with those two, Keegan Murray destroyed the Golden State Warriors tonight, man. Keegan Murray played 45 minutes, and the stat that I kept pointing out for
he rebounded.
Yeah, he had 12 rebounds, but the stat that stuck out the most in terms of the Kings beating the Warriors tonight was rebounding. It was just like game 1 again. They had 18 offensive rebounds to just 11 for the Warriors. They had 53 rebounds to 42 for the Warriors. They won the points in the paint battle. This was despite the fact that Sabonis only played 23 minutes. Alex Len did not play at all. Harrison Barnes saw his minutes go down to just 14. The Kings went to a small ball lineup that was aggressive, that was athletic, and Kerr just for some reason does not adjust in real time that often. He has to wait a game and sleep on it, I guess, or he needs to have Kenny Atkinson do some analytics for him, which he never used to do, which by the way is the core reason why this team stunk up the entire year was Kenny Atkinson and his dumbass analytics. Frank, I feel like you'll agree with me more than anyone, man. If there's ever a sport where analytics has the least amount of relevance, it's basketball. It's the NBA. I don't need numbers to tell me who's a good player and who's a bad player. The eye test is a very valid way of analyzing talent. And Steve Kerr, what he did this year, and I just learned this the other day, and it just blew my mind because all of a sudden everything made sense. Steve Kerr every day on a daily basis has conversations with Kenny Atkinson about analytics, because I guess Kenny Atkinson, who none of us know anything about, and I'm suddenly my interest is piqued, and I'm going to do my research on him now, is a very data-driven individual. Like, he loves analytics. He makes a lot of his decisions based on analytics, and apparently Kerr has decided to open the door for him every day, daily. He literally emphasized that on a daily basis. They sit there and talk analytics, and that's why you heard Kerr, for the first time in his coaching career, start uttering words like net rating, which he never used to say. It's because of that. And I don't agree with it, man. And that perfectly explained why the rotations were so junky this year, why the team was so bad in terms of their overall record. And if he's still doing that in the postseason, they're screwed, man. That's not the way to coach, I think.
This is enlightening for me, Si, because when I read what you're talking about, I immediately thought about you, because I didn't know how you would feel about it. I thought you would lean more with analytics simply because you're a wizard with a computer in terms of getting numbers. Man. I love it. I love it because I trust my eyes. And all the years I've coached basketball, I lean on my eyes. And I think nuance and knowing your players and feel and relationships, those things matter most in basketball. So I agree with you with regards to that. But Kerr made a point. He said something to the effect that, you got to like the guy who you're kind of riding with, at the end of this analytics talk. And that made me go, because he's being fed all of this information. And theoretically, it's in contrast to how he is used to coaching.
Correct.
So I felt that was interesting, because you can't coach like what was it? CP2? What is the AI algorithm? You can't coach just based on numbers. I don't believe you can do that. So
and sports are different. Like, I'm a Moneyball. Right. I read Moneyball. I used to be a huge baseball junkie. Like, right. I totally get analytics in baseball, man. It fits. You can literally forge an entire team strictly out of data. I get that.
It's not working with the Giants side. It's not working with the Giants.
It doesn't work in basketball, man. Like Daryl, there's a reason why Daryl Morey's never won a title, because he's also very data centric in his decision making. To me, man, if you know basketball, you don't need the numbers to tell you who's good and who isn't. But that's me, and I feel like Kerr's mind is being polluted this year with Kenny Atkinson just feeding him all these numbers that probably shows him, like, look, Anthony Lamb, when he's out there with these four other people, we're outscoring other teams per 100 possessions. I'm positive that's how the conversation's going. I also learned, because when I read that story, I called up the reporter who wrote it, and just to get the full picture, right? I wanted to confirm a few things. And I also learned that the Warriors are drastically increasing their investment in data. They used to have just one full-time employee that was focused on analytics, that was compiling data and giving them reports. They now have 4 full-time employees doing that. I don't know if that's a Kenny Atkinson influence, or if it's just a general decision that maybe is smart, but I don't like how much it's influenced Kerr this year. Kerr's an open-minded person. He listens to people. Unfortunately, he's now getting fed this number stuff, and I don't think it's benefiting the team, man. 44-38, 11-30 on the road over a season. That should be enough for me. I don't know. But
Mark, go ahead, Frank.
No, I would say that there's no way that I would have started Jordan Poole over Draymond Green at home, regardless of what the analytics said. There's no way Draymond would have started in Game 6.
Yeah. Mark Hope says, Cy bringing the fire. Roberto Davis says, Bay Area of all our 18. How's your Dubs and 5 prediction looking? Fox is him.
I lost mine too, man.
I was 6. I got to correct him. I was 6.
I was 6 too. We're both out.
I showed Kings enough respect. So I said 6. It's going to 7. Hey, but guess what, Roberto? I'm picking Dubs to win on Sunday, okay? My boys are pulling through. Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Looney. These guys are showing up. So, Roboito, let's hold it off. Just one more. Wait a few days. Let's see how this thing goes.
Cy, last Warrior game, you kind of teased with us that tomorrow, meaning yesterday, on the Locked On, you were going to have this a whole new revelation about Steve Kerr, and that was it.
Yeah,
that
I was just
basically that's what I was wondering. That was it. So that he was leaning totally on analytics through Kenny Atkinson.
Yeah, I mean, Mike Brown, who is an awesome coach, as you can tell, left and got replaced with Kenny Atkinson. And honestly, man, like, I don't know anyone who's really like an expert on Kenny Atkinson. I know he was the head coach at Brooklyn and they were relatively successful, but granted, that was in an Eastern Conference that was just awful, where, you know, I don't know how proud he could be for being like a 6th seed. But other than that, I mean, I don't know what we know about this guy. I don't know what his, I haven't done my research yet, but he's been the number one guy all year.
He was the highest. Wasn't he in the players survey the number one assistant in basketball?
I don't know.
Remember you know how at the beginning of the year they have that survey, that players survey that comes out opening night or whatever. I thought Kenny Atkinson.
He's got head coaching interviews.
I played against him in high school.
You did?
You what?
Yeah, I played against him in high school.
What are your thoughts? Break it down.
I mean, he was a sophomore when I was a senior, so he was a decent little player.
He wasn't going into the lane on Big Frank, though.
I mean, ultimately, he became a really good player. You know, he was a star at Richmond, but he went to St. Anthony's High School out in Long Island. I went to St. Agnes, and I wouldn't call them rivals because they rarely ever beat us, but he was a good player. And, I mean, nobody makes it to the level that he's made it to without a lot of talent and some real juicy connections. So, you know, a lot of good things has happened for him, and he's taking advantage of it, and good for him. But we're probably in contrast because, you know, analytics is a tool that everybody needs to use, but I can never be driven by analytics. Basketball is too much of a relationship game to the extent that I would make decisions based on computer mechanics as opposed to my eyes and my trust in my players.
It's too free flowing, and guys' skill sets sometimes jive and sometimes don't. Sometimes you got guys who blend well. Sometimes you got guys who don't. Sometimes it's about personality. I've seen the ball swing around the perimeter on a number of teams, and it should swing to a guy on the left side, and the guy at the top just looks over at the guy on the left side and is like, I'm not throwing it to him, and just pivots and throws it the other way. And it's like, well, wait a second. The guy was wide open. The defense is on the other side of the court, but you just decided you either didn't like that guy. Maybe you think that guy's a black hole and he's just going to gun it. Maybe you think he's a turnover machine. Maybe you just don't like that guy. And guys swing it the other way. So it's not like people swing the ball to the open guy and never swing it to a guy who's covered. It's like if we had those hard and fast situations, then maybe you could look at some data point and say, oh, it's this. But in reality, it's about relationships. It's about playing off of each other. It's about skill sets. But then it's also about having a master plan, executing your master plan. I mean, you can see some teams are real disciplined and they come out and they're like, hey, this is not the shot we want. This is the shot we want. Or even like when we shoot. You know, we want to make them defend as much of the 24-second shot clock as we possibly can. So even if we get a good look early, let's work it and make them play defense for the full 24, because maybe that in and of itself will kill their rhythm or their break or some other attribute of the game that's going on. So there's just a lot there. And it's like baseball, it's one thing to be like, well, what'd you hit off lefties? What'd you hit off righties? What'd you hit in the ninth inning? What'd you hit when you let off an inning? What'd you hit with runners on base? These are more like cut and dried situations. And still the baseball people screw it up. I mean, Kevin Cash pulled out Blake Snell from Game 7 of the World Series when he was flat out dealing.
I remember that.
And he basically said it was because of analytics. But then people pushed back and said, "Hey, Kev, the 3 hitters that were coming up for the Dodgers at the end there were 0 for 9 with 8 strikeouts against that pitcher in this game." Mm-hmm. But he wasn't looking at those analytics. He was looking at the analytics that says, hey, you know what? Snell, third time through the lineup, hitters hit 27 points higher, so I'm pulling him out. But, you know, here's the bottom line on it. when you strictly live and die by analytics, guess what you never have? You never have Isaiah Thomas against the Lakers on one leg.
Right.
Guess what you don't have? You don't have Madison Bumgarner out of the bullpen in Game 7 for 7 innings or whatever it was. You don't have that when you're just strict analytics. So
Agreed.
To me, it's like, don't ignore what your eyes tell you. Factor in your analytics, but factor them in the pregame and note them in your mind, and maybe construct like a master plan. But once the game starts, pivot off of your analytics master plan and use your instincts. Steve Kerr's played high school basketball, college basketball, a full career in the NBA. He's been a broadcaster. He's been a GM. He's been a head coach. He's got rings. He knows his guys intently. I think I'd rather trust his kind of feel than Kenny Atkinson's Tandy 5000 at 3:00 in the afternoon.
Right.
Is that crazy?
How can analytics explain Draymond Green? Like there's just so many players who fit like certain roles, for example, where analytics would never tell the story of who this person truly is. Like Dennis Rodman, all you see is a rebounding machine, but you would never see just how impactful he is defensively, or how familiar with the triangle he was to set his teammates up for success offensively. Yeah, dude, I mean, I don't. There's room for it depending on the specific analytics, right? Like certain stats are obvious. Field goal percentage is pretty cut and dry in terms of whether or not you're a good shooter and so forth. But you can't be over reliant, man. I don't believe in that. I don't know, but that's me.
Well, I mean, especially when you're talking about groups of players, because there's sometimes players get hot, and then other times some guys are very consistent. They give you the exact same thing every night. Some guys are like they're on or they're off, and when they're on, it's like, dude, ride them. And when they're off, it's like, get them the hell off the floor as soon as possible. And yet, they're both individual players, but you got to know the personality type. Some guys go into a funk. Some guys, some teams, and you see it all the time in the NBA, especially bad teams, they take turns shooting. Oh, he just made 3 in a row, but guess what? It's my turn. It's my turn. I'm going to shoot. No, he's hot. He just made 3 in a row. Feed him. But no. I've seen guys make 5 in a row and don't touch the ball for the rest of the quarter on teams because people are like, you know what? It's my turn. He got up his shots. It's my turn to get my shots. Comment King says, please continue to whine and blame the refs in the league or whatever. We love the salt. Dub fans are the most emotionally fragile in the league, like your hero, Draymond Green, like the beam.
Win a series and then talk trash. Jesus Christ, dude. You haven't even won the series yet, bro. First time in the playoffs since, 2006? And you're talking trash because you made it to a Game 7? Win the game first, man. You folks get so quiet and vanish every time you lose a game. And then when you win, all of a sudden we see you again. Be consistent. Talk trash when you win something meaningful. Otherwise, you're no different than the Grizzlies fans last year who were talking similar trash until their team was eliminated. And the analytics thing, by the way, also, I think plays a part for the development of the youngsters, because players like Kuminga and Moody, they're not going to necessarily present great net ratings early in their careers, man. They're making mistakes left and right. That's going to improve as the season goes along. But if you're relying on those analytics in real time, that would explain why we got so many DNPs from Moody and Kuminga this year. It just when I learned that, it just all clicked. And I don't know, man. Kenny Atkinson is in the running for a lot of head coaching jobs. I'm suddenly not going to be sad if someone hires him. It'd be nice to see some change. I like Jama Malalela, who seems like he would be the number one guy if Kenny Atkinson did go. But anyways, man, I still think the Warriors can win Game 7, by the way, too. I'm not writing the Warriors off at all. Klay Thompson
do you feel more confident because they did win Game 5, or do you feel like if they hadn't won, obviously if they hadn't won Game 5, the series would be over right now. But you know what I'm saying?
It showed they can win there. And I think but this is where, again, anyone writing off experience, you'll see what experience, how it factors in when we see Game 7. Like the Sacramento Kings are going to be feeling pressure they've never felt in their lives. This Warriors team, at least the core, they played in Game 7 in the NBA Finals, man. They've been there and done that, and it's going to play a part. I think I'm confident in the Warriors. I'm not going to sit here and guarantee a win, but I think they can win. They can win in Game 7. I'm not going to rule them out. I don't know. That's me.
The Warriors didn't fire tonight. To me, there's multiple ways to look at it. To me, I'd rather lose by 19 going away, and tuck tail and be properly motivated for Game 7 than lose some nail biter. I'd rather lose big. Why? Because Kerr's now going to have their total attention. When they're watching that film, they're going to watch it more intently. We've all seen it. It doesn't matter what sport you're talking about. When you get drubbed, that's sobering. That's eye-opening. That's attention-getting. That's focus sharpening. Whatever phrase you want to use. You lose by a jumper, you can say, you know what, if we just made our free throws. I mean, the reality is the Warriors didn't make any free throws tonight. They missed so many free throws. That had a huge impact on this thing.
10.
I mean, 10 free throws in a closeout game, and that's embarrassing.
That is,
Calba says, here's a donation. Larry, the Niners cleared a lot of cap space today, more than I thought they needed. If they extend Bosa, his 23 cap figure would shrink. What do you think they're up to? That's a great question. That is a great question. I don't know. And then there's several people in here saying, when are you going to admit you were wrong on Trey? Probably tomorrow, after the draft.
Why is that such a big deal? Like, why? Like,
Yeah,
even if
because just a lot of people, I ran my mouth, and a lot of people want to shove it down my throat and say you were wrong. Ultimately, the funniest part about this is what I said was the Niners are going to recommit to Brock Purdy. This is before Brock Purdy was named the starter. I said this in February. Okay, in February when the season ended, I said the Niners are there. People were like, hey, now we come up to the offseason and there's going to be this huge competition between Trey and Brock for the starting job. And I said, no, there's not. Brock is the starter. Trey is probably going to be moved on. And they're going to clear the decks for Brock and go in that direction. And then once I started hearing them talk about it, I really believed it even more. And we're not there yet. But when I said it, Brock and Trey, nobody was the starter. And I said, Brock's going to be the starter and they're going to move off of Trey. Well, Brock is the starter. Listen to Lynch, listen to Shanahan, listen to Jed. Brock is the starter. And then I said Trey was going to be shopped. And at that point, they weren't even taking offers for anybody. But clearly, based on what they told us, they've shopped Trey Lance. So for me to say in February, Brock's going to be the guy and they're going to trade Trey Lance, Brock is the guy and they've shopped Trey Lance. Now, to this minute, they haven't traded him, but give it some time. And I would say, I said they would trade him by the draft weekend. The draft weekend ends tomorrow. If you told me that tomorrow the Niners got a 4th-round pick in Montez Sweat for Trey Lance or Montez Sweat for Trey Lance and a conditional pick, if you told me they moved him tomorrow somewhere, to me that's believable. So I will own this. I will admit that I was wrong. I still ultimately am going to be right because he's going to get dealt. Now I'm still going to owe Ryan the lunch because Ryan said he doesn't do it by the draft. But what happens if he gets dealt in 3 weeks? Am I suddenly wrong? I told you before anybody said anything, Brock was going to be the starter and that they were going to trade Trey Lance. And then I said, I think it's going to be by the draft. So if I'm off by 3 weeks, am I really wrong? I still gave you Brock's the starter and that Trey Lance was going to be traded. So we'll see where it goes.
What happens if Brock Purdy doesn't play this year? Who's the starter then? Because that's a possibility, right? I mean, Purdy,
Trey Lance or Sam Darnold right now.
Okay,
but I mean, here's the thing.
Like
tomorrow, we'll see what happens. There's other quarterbacks there. Will they trade Trey Lance? Will they draft one of these other quarterbacks, or will they keep Trey Lance beyond the draft? Will they keep Trey Lance into the season? We'll see. But I made the wager, and if I lose, I'll pay. So there you go.
I think it's a part of negotiations. I mean Lynch. Stanford guy. Kyle Shanahan. Let's be honest. He thinks that he could take any of us and turn us into a halfway decent high school quarterback. That's just his mentality. He thinks it's about his system. If you have the core variables, I can turn you into a decent quarterback, which is why he doesn't want to be in the high-priced quarterback business. He doesn't. So it's not surprising that Trey Lance is still a member of the 49ers because nobody offered the 49ers what they wanted.
Mhm.
If they don't, then they'll keep him and they'll go to camp, I guess, with what, 3 quarterbacks and maybe a guy on the practice team. So this is not like a hit or miss proposition, Larry. You know that it's not.
Well, I mean, personally, I just think that it's if you said to me, "What do the Niners really want?" I think they want to clear the deck for Brock Purdy, have Sam Darnold, and have a rookie quarterback who's ready to play, but not going to threaten Sam's position as number 2, and not going to threaten Brock Purdy's position as number 1. What I don't think the Niners want is this everyday debate all season long between the 3 quarterbacks of who's the guy, who's the guy, who's the guy. Maybe I'm wrong, but my sense of it is they don't want that. So we'll see. We'll see. And if they keep, I mean, I actually like the guy, and this has been turned around a million different ways because I do like the player. I'm the one who said they should draft the player. And I'm not saying there's a difference between saying it's going to rain tomorrow and saying, I hope it rains tomorrow. One's a prediction, one's a wish. I'm not wishing for Trey to be traded. I'm predicting that they will trade him based on what they've said. And there's a difference there. 808 Niner.
I'm going to jump out.
Okay, Frank.
All right.
Good to see you, man.
All right.
Sunday, Game 7.
I love it, man. Just reach out to me.
We'll do it. We'll do it. There you go. Frank Red. 808 Niner. WTF. I'm convinced that they just effed up their first 3 picks no matter what rounds they're in. Moody might not have been there in the 5th, but come on. I love Jair Brown. There's no question that was a good pick. As far as Moody, he's a kicker. So I just don't like the idea of taking kickers in the 3rd round. Why? Because Roberto Aguayo got taken 3 years ago in the 2nd round, and I think he got cut at the cutdown, didn't he? Or he got cut a couple games in.
He sucked, and they cut him, and no one ever gave him another shot again. He might have gotten a chance in like the USFL or the XFL might have gave him a shot.
Clarsard 49 says, "Do they like Latu over Kuntz?" Kuntz.
I didn't. I like Kuntz over Latu. I know Kuntz isn't this mauler in the run game, but Kuntz, man, he is a weapon. 6'7", running a 4.55 like that. That dude has big slot written all over him. Or how about Josh Wiley out of Cincinnati? I liked more than Latu. Will Mallory's a really good pass catcher. There was, Davis Allen is a phenomenal blocker who's catches contested balls at an insanely high rate. So there was a number of guys I would have taken over Latu.
What do you guys think? What are we going to see on Sunday? Are we going to see any change from Kerr that's significant? Are we going to see anything that you think is going to impact Game 7 dramatically? Or does he basically, we've seen all the wrinkles and this is just what it is, and then they just got to play better? Or is there a wrinkle that's still coming?
You're going to see Draymond Green start. I'm very confident in that. I can't imagine him coming off the bench anymore. As I agree with Frank that they should have ended that experiment tonight, but you'll see that end Sunday. I also believe it's going to be a tight game. Like the Kings were a very loose team tonight, which is impressive. They came out just firing. They made the not a subtle adjustment at all, and basically telling Alex Len, sit down, you're out of this series, and telling Davion Mitchell, you're no longer an integral part of the rotation. He only played 11 minutes in this game. Even in Harrison Barnes, who his outside shooting has just been abysmal, and it's only played 14 minutes. And the players who replaced them, especially Terrence Davis, just played without fear, man, played loose. I mean, Davis was a difference for Steph because he's bigger than Davion Mitchell. Like Steph figured Davion out. And so Terrence Davis was new for him. Terrence Davis fouled out after playing nearly 20 minutes. And you did not see a single head hanging low on the Kings bench when he was coming out. They all like congratulated him, patted him on the shoulder. He did his job. Those 6 fouls were probably part of the plan in terms of making life difficult. The Kings just came out and played loose. Like they had nothing to lose. I don't think you're going to see that in Game 7. This is going to be a very tight game where literally every possession counts. And that's where the experience is going to really play factor, man. In a tight game like that, where you're not going to. Game sevens are not loose, man. They're tight. You see a lot of mistakes. And that's where I think the experience will come through for the Warriors. They're very aware if they lose, it's over, man. Draymond's gone. Who knows what happens to Myers and Kerr? You're going to see huge changes with the Warriors this offseason if they lose this game. And I think the team's aware of that. So there will be more.
Really? You're going to get rid of Draymond Green just because they lose this game?
I don't think they get rid of him, but I think Draymond will opt out, and I don't think the Warriors will match what another team will offer him. That part I do believe. Yeah.
Doesn't he? He said he wanted to be a Warrior.
He did, but he also said this season that, the game's a business, and that he could see himself leaving. I'll put it this way: like
they offer him 3 years, $60 million, and somebody offers him 3 years, $66 million. Is he leaving?
He'll get a 4-year deal. Someone will give him a 4-year, like $120 million deal, and I don't think the Warriors will match that. I really believe that. Some team will gamble. They know whatever team gambles, whether it's like a Dallas, whether it's like a Portland, whoever does it, like a Miami Heat, they're going to be fully aware that the last probably 2 years of that contract are going to be a waste. He's going to be like Chris Paul or like Kyle Lowry. But what you get in Draymond, especially if you're just a Draymond piece away from a championship, I do, man. I think someone's going to throw the bag at him. And I think the Warriors, if they lose in the first round, whether it's Lacob making the calls, and I really hope it doesn't turn into that. I hate owners who just really overly meddle and turn into GMs themselves. And I hope Joe Lacob doesn't turn into that kind of owner. But realistically, man, I mean, you look at Draymond, if he's asking for like 4 years, $120 million, and your team just got bounced in the first round, he turns 34 next year. I know his value to this organization. They don't win any championships without him. I get all that. But Joe Lacob's kind of shrewd when it comes to spending money. And I don't think he's going to do it. I really do. That's what I think. I don't know.
Mark Hope says, anyone see Poole not really save that loose ball?
Oh.
I just see Poole as a guy that sometimes is just checking out. The one that I didn't like was it the turnover where he tried to get a call. Kerr went ballistic because he didn't get the call, but he just stopped playing. The ball was going the other way. And he was the defender. Right? He was he got the technical, but he was the defender who was furthest back. And as soon as he got picked and didn't get the call, he just stopped playing.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
that leads to my adjustment. You asked us what adjustment do I want to see? I want to see less Jordan Poole. Quite frankly, I don't trust the guy. He is so inconsistent. The highs look good, but it feels like more often than not, the negatives outweigh the positives, the bad shots, just the out of control plays, isolation, and then defensively, the guy's a turnstile. Okay, so in Game 7, to be honest, I trust Moses Moody on the court more than Jordan Poole right now. And I know Dante DiVincenzo's been slumping, but I feel like Dante DiVincenzo doesn't make these head-scratching plays that get me off the couch yelling at the TV like Jordan Poole does. So in Game 7, I trust Moody and DiVincenzo more than I do Jordan Poole.
I hope Steve Kerr hears you, man. I do. I'm with you. Yeah.
I'll say this. I think DiVincenzo, guys, needs to step up with some more offense.
He does.
I mean, my goodness, he's got to be a little bit more of an offensive threat. This team doesn't have enough offense for him to just do other things. He's got to be able to score a little bit. 8 to 10 points. He doesn't need a ton, but he's got to score somewhat.
Yeah.
Brian Iglesias says the aspect that frustrates me the most with Poole is his inability to defend on the perimeter. He averages 20 points per game, but he can't stay in front of anyone. Tonight was a team-wide careless loss. Yeah, I mean, Poole is Matador. He's Matador D. He just, he's there, but I mean, it's like turnstile. He just like guys are going right on by.
The Warriors, what's crazy about tonight, man, what frustrates me the most is they scored 99 points. I mean, this is supposed to be an offense that is legendary among the all-time greats, and you got held by a Kings team that is not known for defense to 99 points. Like that's bad. If they can't score points Sunday, then it's obviously over. Right? What a bummer, man. Are
you more bummed about their lack of scoring or their inability to defend at Sacramento?
Well, tonight's scoring. I mean, look, Malik Monk was pissing me off. I think everyone who's a Warriors fan, every time Malik Monk had the ball, it's like he was unstoppable. And then the one time they stopped him, they called a bullshit foul. Malik Monk's insane. I don't know where he's been his whole career. He's been dominating the series, man. But to me, though, 99 points, that's inexcusable. You're the defending champions. You have, the greatest shooters on your team. Klay
what did
Thompson
Kerr say about it in the post game?
Kerr just blamed execution. He took credit for leaving Poole out there too long. Klay Thompson, I thought, had the most interesting quote because he came out very confident in Game 7. He thinks he came out and said they're going to take care of business. The shooting you saw tonight's not going to repeat itself. Dude, I mean, the more I just think about Sunday, the more nervous I get, man. That's one of those ones where if you're a Warriors fan, you're not sleeping good Saturday night. I mean, that's crazy. I might have to go drinking Saturday. I don't do that much, but yeah, that might be a drinking night. I don't know.
We got Simon who says all Cy does is cry, cry, cry. What? What is that? There's just a lot of Kings fans who are feeling themselves today. All I'll say is enjoy, Kings fans. Enjoy your night. Enjoy your night. Enjoy your night. Right? I mean, I don't know. I don't know what else to say other than, enjoy the win. Because it was a good win for them. This probably is maybe one of the biggest wins in the history of the franchise.
Here's what this reminds me of a little bit, and let me know what if you agree with me or not. The last year of the Bulls dynasty, they played the Pacers in the Eastern Conference Finals. And it was the first time they got pushed to a Game 7. And back then, the Warriors sucked. So I always had to have a second team to root for so I can stay interested in basketball. And so Jordan's Bulls were in. I love them. And I remember feeling nervous about them. I was like, wow, Game 7. And the Pacers looked good. The Bulls started looking a little old. Jordan was 35, just like Steph is now. And they took care of business. They went to Game 7. They took care of business. And they went on and won the title. This has a feel like that a little bit, where it's like this Warriors team, you're seeing them get old, man. The signs are, the wear and tear are starting to show a little bit. You're seeing some of the signs of decay, and but I'm confident in the Warriors taking care of business in Game 7. It's not a guarantee, man. I can't guarantee shit with this team and this coach especially, but I'm confident, man. I mean, I do believe they're the better team if you play all the players. But if you're going to go with an 8-man rotation and your 8-man rotation is all 6'5" dudes, no, you're not the better team. You're not going to win. So I hope Kerr's a little more open-minded with his roster and his changes.
To me, my big takeaway here, guys, is not that the Warriors are going to lose this series. I think they definitely can go to Sacramento on Sunday and win. Would not be at all shocked if they did. They're the team with the championship medal. Mm-hmm. But to me, there's one factor and one factor only with Sacramento. You cannot let Malik Monk go off the bench. No. If he goes for 25 or more, you're gonna lose. All right, so you're gonna have to somehow keep him in check. Yeah. Whatever, and to me, the fact that you have Gary Payton II and you have been unable to keep Monk in check is really what? How is this happening? I mean, put Payton on Monk.
Well, and just to add to that, Larry, Gary Payton II did not come into this game until the 10-minute mark of the second quarter. You knew right away that the Kings were going small, and they were going, because Davion Mitchell wasn't playing. Sabonis was starting to get phased out, and Terrence Davis came in the game early, right? So you knew right away there was a change there. They're going small. And for Gary Payton II to not see any action until the 10 minutes of the second quarter, and he only played 10 minutes total in this game. I did not understand that, man. That's one thing I do hope Kerr adjusts to. Amar is wrong on every other post he makes, so I'm not taking that seriously.
Amar says we're delusional if you think the Warriors are winning Game 7. Be realistic. This series is over. These dudes are old and gassed.
Moses Moody's not old and gassed.
I don't know about
Andrew Wiggins is not old and gassed. It's Kevon Looney's only 28 years old. He's not old and gassed. It's still early, man. I mean, you're talking about the core three. Steph, I don't think looks old and gassed. If Steph was old and gassed, he shot well tonight. He was 5 for 12 from beyond the arc, man. That's 40%. That's fantastic. So yeah, Clay was bad. They need a better version of Clay if they're going to win Game 7. And Draymond needs to play more than 25 minutes. You need to add 10 to that. That's ridiculous.
And while we're on Draymond, fellas, I got to ask you, we were praising him last game, right? He was so aggressive, attacking the rim. Tonight, I did not see the same aggressiveness. I want to pull up his stats. How many shots did he even attempt? He took 2 shots. And I know he had some foul trouble. Draymond, he attempted 2 shots tonight coming off this 20-point performance where we heaped praises on him. He was spectacular. So, I mean, what did you guys see? I felt like he was not as aggressive, but I don't know. Were the Kings playing a different coverage? Like, why did Draymond, who had so much success, dominated last game, tonight it was rather forgettable?
Well, and he's got to get his buckets going to the bucket, because you don't want him taking a bunch of threes. And when he goes to the bucket, he's a pretty decent finisher.
Let me say this.
Yeah, I agree. I agree because look at the bench. To me, if you said what's one factor in this thing, it was the bench scoring.
Yeah.
The Warriors got 9 from Moody, 8 from DiVincenzo, 4 from Green, and everybody else was goose eggs. And then you look at Sacramento's bench, they got 28 from Monk, 7 from Davis, 5 from Mitchell, 12. To me, if there was an underrated performance, it was the 12 and 9 from Trey Lyles in 27 minutes. He not only was good, he only turned it over once, he was efficient.
And just to add to that, Larry, one stat that hasn't been mentioned yet, but you'll probably hear this a lot between now and Sunday. The Kings had 8 blocks in this game. And Draymond, I think, got blocked at least once or twice, which is part of the reason why he wasn't aggressive offensively. That has to change, man. Like, you can't be getting blocked 8 times by a team that is basically benching all their tallest players. Like, Alex Len was not in there. Harrison Barnes only played 14 minutes. Davion Mitchell, who's short, but he's still just a defensive beast. He only played 11 minutes. Yeah, man, they can't get blocked 8 times. That's ridiculous.
I mean, to me, that is ridiculous. So, I'll say this. I think this game is more palatable because it was such a blowout. If it had been like a last-second shot, man, then maybe there's lingering effect. I think this is an easy game for Golden State to just be like, guys, let's look ourselves in the mirror and just be like, did we bring it today? And they didn't. You have to be, you need to bring your A game at full tilt to get a team to head off into the summer. I mean, you're trying to put this team away. You're trying to finish them. You're going to need to bring more energy, more attention to detail, more focus, more smarter play. More team ball. The Warriors for this entire. You're not going to stop the way you play. You've been playing pace and space. They rely on body movement, ball movement. We didn't see that. They had 8. What was their assist total tonight?
Oh, for the Warriors, you're right. Steve Kerr was alluding to that. I think
it was like one of the lowest. This team when they're really
20.
rolling can get 30 assists.
Yeah, they had 20 tonight, but
they had 8 in the first half.
And I have those numbers there too. In the first half, the Warriors finished. You're right, because Steve Kerr uttered. I think it was after the third quarter. He said they only had 8 assists. At the half, they only had 8 assists. Maybe that's where I heard that. But yeah, they only had 8 assists at the half, and that's bad. That's very bad. That's awful. Yeah, it's garbage. You're absolutely right.
So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what transpires on Sunday. What do you think of the 12:30 start? Would you rather play that game at night, or do you mind the 12:30?
Eric, what do you think, man?
I don't like the 12:30. I don't
either. I really never liked it.
It's unnatural. Like, they don't do it a ton, so I feel like when you kind of bring in that element, it can bring some more randomness. That being said, Warriors taking care of business.
And let me guys, hear me out on this, man. And this is where it infuriates me that Jonathan Kuminga is not playing, right? How the hell can you sit there and justify Jonathan Kuminga not playing while Keegan Murray, a rookie, plays 45 minutes and he grabs 12 rebounds, is plus 19, scores 15 points. Trey Lyles, 27 minutes, scores 12 points on 50% shooting, grabs 9 rebounds. How can you? Who is anyone making an argument that Jonathan Kuminga can't handle those 2 guys? I mean, that's crazy, man. Like, Kuminga needs to play, dude. This is what happens when he doesn't play. The Warriors are not that good. They need his size. He's played the majority of the season. He was contributing for most of those games. And just because his body language is bad, he's out of the rotation. That's fucking bullshit.
Well, I mean, exactly. I mean, Kuminga and Moody finished the season nicely, and it didn't take much for the Warriors to just say, sit down. Where Murray obviously had a terrific year, shot 41% from three. He had 2 back-to-back games where it looked like the emotion of the series was just too big, too great for him to handle. And did they quit on him and say, get out of here? No, they stuck with him. He came alive. You can make an argument he's one of their more valuable players right now. So, I mean, I think we saw the difference between, Mike Brown and Steve Kerr. Mike Brown brought along his young player. Now, granted, he's a lottery pick. But so was Kuminga. So was Moody, right? These guys were lottery picks. And it's like, and they're more experienced. Bring them along.
Drafts ever. Yeah, you're absolutely right, man. It's absurd. Moses, they both deserve to play. They both deserve to play. It's crazy.
Yeah, they just didn't bring those guys along. All right, guys. Final thought here before we jet. We got a couple more. One super chat here. Torta Monsta says for Kings fans, what Torta Monsta? Torta Monsta. For you Kings fans watching, win something, you bums. Ooh. Going bums.
I like tortas. Tortas are delicious if that's what that's in reference to. Have you ever had those?
A torta?
I like a good torta. Yeah.
Torta's delicious.
Now, what exactly defines a torta? Is there eggs in it? You're talking about like a quiche of some kind?
No, it's like a Mexican sandwich, right? It's like just a certain type of bread, and then they put all the Mexican goodness in it, and it's I just think of it as a Mexican. You go to a Mexican food truck like the one I go to a lot down the street, and instead of getting your burrito or your tacos, you ask for a torta, and it's just a sandwich.
Yeah.
And
I'm going burrito, to be honest. I'm going burrito probably about 60%, and then tacos maybe 30%, and then it's like a rare like torta time. If
will you bust it? Will you go enchilada? Will you go tamale?
Like
will you go tamale?
In at a like a nice Mexican restaurant, not just like a burrito spot, then I might go enchilada. Or, if I'm going enchilada, it's usually in some type of combination platter where I'm getting like a taco, and maybe a chili relleno, and like I'm mixing it in amongst like some type of combination.
Yeah, sounds good, man.
Yeah, seriously, I'm getting hungry. I'm getting hungry. Man, the chat is just freaking endless tonight. It's just so many people in the chat. I did have to block Jose Ramirez.
You went too far, dude. It was a little much.
The guy had like 40 things in there. You're ignoring me. You're ignoring me. I'm not ignoring you, bro. I'm not ignoring you. Now I'm fucking ignoring you. But I wasn't ignoring you. Yeah. I put some of yours in the starred chats. And you know what? I will take the loss on the Trey prediction.
It was a bold prediction, Larry.
It was a bold prediction.
It was bold. Like I was like, okay, Larry's really going out on a limb. So for people to like really hold your feet to the fire on this one, I think is kind of extreme. Especially when, like you were kind of ahead of the game because they basically said like, yeah, we're fielding calls for him. If they had gotten the right offer, Trey probably would be on
way before they said they were shopping him. I said they were shopping him way before they said that Brock Purdy was the number one guy. I said Brock Purdy's the number one guy. And if I'm off by like 3 weeks or 4 weeks or 6 weeks, kill me. But I'll take Ryan to lunch. But at the end of the day, is Ryan going to be real happy if they trade Trey in June? No. I mean, ultimately, aren't we? What are we talking about here? I mean, do you need lunch that bad? I mean, if anybody needs lunch that bad, it's on me. But I mean, I ran my mouth. I'll own it.
I want to see Trey. I'm thinking maybe don't rush Purdy back. I mean, if he's 100% ready to roll, then Purdy's starting week 1. But if he's 80, 90%, maybe you sit him a couple games. Because I do want to see Trey. And if he does play well in the preseason or a couple games in the regular season, guess what that'll do? That will boost his trade stock. I watched a quarterback like Matt Schaub, who had no value, played good in the preseason. Next thing you know, he was unloaded for a 3rd-round pick. So playing good in the preseason or training camp. It can definitely boost his stock, but I want to see the kid play because I do think he has potential, and I don't want to rush Purdy back. So I think that might be the perfect kind of segue, the perfect reason to get a
here's the
look
other
at
thing,
him.
man, and this might be controversial, but are you guys really that confident in Brock Purdy being like the man? I mean, look, he had a great second half of the season. What did he finish 5-0, 6-0? What was his final run? Was he 5-0 as a starter?
6-0, and then 2-0 in the playoffs, and then he lost technically, even though he really wasn't there for that game.
So Steve Bono had a very similar run. And I wasn't ready to anoint Steve Bono the next starting quarterback of the 49ers. You know, like I need to see a little more, you know, like, I don't know.
There's a pretty big difference. Steve Bono was a undrafted guy who, you know, was already 30-something years old when he actually got his starts, and nobody was really thinking. Yeah, I think so. I think Steve Bono was.
Okay.
I don't know. You could look it up, but I think Steve Bono was not. He definitely was not a young player. I mean, he was never hailed as a big-time player. I mean,
But neither was Brock. You know,
no, but I mean, I don't think Bono was never even drafted. And
so you're Mr. Relevant.
Let's just not. No. Brock Purdy's worlds better than Steve Bono. Okay, I mean, worlds better than Steve Bono. And as far as do I believe in Brock? Yeah, I do. I do kind of believe in Brock.
Good.
I do.
Although the Warriors are favored in Game 7, according to the FanDuel Sportsbook. That's
what?
Yeah, 1.5 point favorites.
Really?
Not even a pick 'em. Not even a pick 'em. 1.5.
They should be.
Wow.
So there you go, Beamsters.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you know, that right there. If you're a Warrior fan, you take that to heart. If you're a Kings fan, does that make you a little nervous? You got home. I asked this question the other day, even though Dan refused to go there. He was like, you know, well, it was my hypothetical, and he couldn't go with it. I said, Dan, here's the hypothetical. You're the Kings. You're going to lose in Game 6 on the road, or you can win Game 6 on the road and lose Game 7 at home. Which would you prefer? And he's like, well, they're not going to want to lose Game 7 on. Dan, try to go with it. Try to focus. Focus. It's a hypothetical. It's hypothetical, buddy. Couldn't hang with the hypothetical. But what do you think? If you were a Kings fan, if you knew your season was coming to an end, would you rather lose today at Golden State or lose Game 7 on your home floor? What's the more bitter? What's the more bitter end to your year? Losing today or losing Sunday?
No, Game 7. You have that much more hope. You're in front of your home fans. I mean, oh my God, I don't think that's even a tough call, right? I don't know. I would think so too. I would have preferred tonight, but that's me. I don't know. By the way, here's something I learned tonight too, which kind of disappointed me because when we learned about De'Aaron Fox's injury, right? He had that weird little fracture, but it's a weird type of fracture where like the tendon is kind of separated from the bone. I didn't know this, but Kobe Bryant had the exact same injury, and he won the title. He played through the entire playoffs with that same injury on the same finger, and that was the year I think they beat the Celtics in the NBA Finals. So when I learned that, I was like, shit. So it's not really that bad of an injury. Like you can deal with it. It's just all about your tolerance for pain. So take that.
Joe Schmo says Warrior fans are all bandwagon fans. What?
Fuck
and
you.
Can't name one player before Steph without Google. Facts. Light the beam. Dude, Joe Schmo. Yeah. Joe Schmo, what are you, 9? What are you, 10 years old?
What do you expect from Warriors fans?
First of all, I mean, but Warrior fans are all bandwagon fans? Really? Really? Well, you're going to say to me,
sucked.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, I went to games from 75 on. They were bad my whole life. I can name chapter and verse. I can not only name the Warriors shitball players, I can name the Kings shitball players. Seriously. I was there for Big Ben Guillory, over to Joe Klein, down to Jim Peterson, over to Vinny Del Negro, Randy Allen, Danny Ainge.
I emulated Terry Teagle's fadeaway, man. I love this fadeaway shot.
I was there when they traded their lottery pick for Mookie Blaylock.
Oh, dude.
That became Jason Terry. I was there high-fiving when we got Larry Hughes. Larry Hughes.
He was good for the Warriors. He was good for the Warriors.
Oh yeah, Larry
Chris
Hughes,
Porter.
Antoine Jameson,
Chris
I
Taft.
remember when the ping pong balls didn't fall our way. I wanted Big Yao. Warriors had the worst record. They had the highest percentage to get the first pick of the draft, and Yao Ming. And I wanted Yao. Like at that point, like 7'6". I don't know what year that was. I must have been like 10, 11. Or
I was there for
old.
Brian Cardinal, the custodian.
Oh, Homer Simpson. Yeah, absolutely.
The custodian.
The 1 year they get the number one
Bobby
pick,
Sura.
And the 1 year they get the number one pick, it's Joe fucking Smith out of Maryland. Like out of all the players, that's the draft you get the number one.
4 picks ahead of KG.
And Smith, yeah.
See, I was there for all of that. Ike Diagu. Do you remember Ike Diagu?
I thought Anthony Randolph, for Arizona State, but I thought Anthony Randolph was really going to be something. The lengthy lefty, but disappointed with him. The one guy who I was
Daniel Marshall.
When we drafted him, I was furious. I was livid because as soon as we picked it, I knew it was an insta bust.
Patrick O'Brien.
Oh,
you know what?
As soon as I tell you that, I was fuming.
The best one on that was that Damon Bruce went on the radio and said, "I'm tired of them drafting another big white stiff."
You would think that the name
Patrick O'Brien.
That's bad.
It's really bad. Really
look
bad.
At a picture, man. Look at a picture. Damon.
Seriously, due diligence. Due diligence.
That's funny,
Cliff Rozier, Danny Fortson.
No, I was not a fan of Clifford Rozier.
Jason Caffey.
Oh, God, dude. He was good with the Bulls, too, and then he comes to the Warriors and just does nothing.
Tom Gugliotta.
Yeah.
I had high hopes for Danny Fortson. Big
he was
time
the end
rebounder.
Yeah. He was the end result of Chris Webber. Like, Chris Webber got traded.
Mr. Jennings.
You got Tom Gugliotta. Tom Gugliotta turned into Daniel Marshall. Daniel Marshall turned into Danny Fortson. And that was the conclusion of the Chris Webber era.
Vonteego Cummings.
Yeah.
Ty Hill.
I like Hill, man.
I was there for the Kings when they had Travis Mays and Anthony Bonner and the L Train and just all kinds of just garbage. I mean, just guys who just couldn't play dead. So don't you don't know. First of all, you don't know there are a lot of bandwagon Johnny come lately Warrior fans. I'll admit that. But that's what happens when you win championships. Nobody's like, "Hey, our general manager's in Secaucus, New Jersey at the lottery. I'm going to be a fan of that team." No, when you win championships, people want to jump aboard. So there's lots of bandwagon fans, but don't even go there. I mean, seriously, I had all kinds of scar Warrior related scar tissue before your team ever fucking existed. So don't bring it.
Bill Simmons wrote a great article when he was writing for Grantland. It was in 2012. And it starts referencing Rick Barry defending Joe Lacob during Chris Mullen's retirement ceremony because the fans were booing Lacob for trading Monte Ellis for the center. It's late. I'm brain farting.
Andrew Bogut.
Andrew Bogut. Thank you. But the story is all about how tortured the Warriors fan base was. But despite that, these were really passionate, loyal fans. Man, that arena.
They're the most loyal. The most loyal.
Yeah, during all of it. Yeah. So.
And not only that, they were winning. The fans for the Warriors, they didn't just lose. They lost with enthusiasm. Seriously. Lakers roll in. They're going to play the Kings in a couple nights. They're playing the Sonics in a couple nights after that. They'd sit their guys, and the Warriors would bill it. Come see Shaq, come see Kobe. And maybe one of those guys would sit. That was the regular time. That was a regular occurrence. Guys sat out the Warrior game because they got a big game against the Blazers, big game against the Sonics, big game against the Kings, big game coming up against the Jazz. And so people sat it out. And Warrior fans are the best fans. As far as I'm concerned, Warrior fans are the best fans in all of Northern California. They're better than the Niner fans. They're better than the Giant fans. Why? Because they were subjected to 20-plus years of bad basketball, and they maintained their fandom all the way through. All the way through.
40, double that number, dude. It was late 70s all the way through 2012, right? I mean, you had a few moments here and there, but it was just
The biggest kick to the gut was 94 because 93, they won 55 games. They had a beautiful team. Weber, Avery Johnson, Spreewell, Mully, Billy Owens, Hardaway. And then suddenly, Nelly can't get along with Weber. Weber can't get along with Nelly. It was really started, I thought, when they traded Billy Owens for Ronnie Cycli.
Right.
That was a goddamn disaster. And then eventually they traded Weber for Gugliotta.
Yep.
Gugliotta was so bad that they had to trade Gugliotta. I mean, think about that.
For who?
For Donyell Marshall.
Exactly.
That was an Ed Gregory trade. Yeah, and then
Marshall
Gugliotta became good. I mean, Gugliotta was good before he got here. He was good after he got here. He just wasn't good when he was here. And I don't think anybody else on the team even wanted to pass him the ball because they were so pissed off that Weber was gone. I mean, that was the most painful because the Warriors, you got to remember this. Warriors were good in the 70s, early 70s. So the entire 80s was lean except for the very end. There was a couple fun years,
And like the sleep, like the
Run TMC.
Yeah, Chris Mullin kind of saved the organization for a few.
Chris Mullin, Mitch Richmond, Don Nelson saved him by getting getting Mully to rehab and drafting Mitch Richmond. And
but before that, Larry. But before that, George Karl was his 2 years. They were decent.
But they drafted Chris Washburn.
Yeah. Well, I saw this video just the other day because the Warriors have pulled a lot of upsets in the playoffs. They routinely get into the playoffs as a 7 seed, and they usually play like Utah or San Antonio, and then pull off these huge upsets. Like if you find the video, there's one video from like '86 where the first round used to be a 5-game series, the best of 5, and it was one of the games in Utah. It turned into a whole brawl. This was like Ron Artest level, Steven Jackson level type brawl with fans in the stands getting involved. Dude, look it up. It's the stuff of legends. So the Warriors have had little moments here and there. You're right, but they just suck for the most part, dude. They're fucking awful.
But just you want to say go Kings, fine. You want to bask in your moment and say the Warriors suck tonight. That's fine. But don't go at the fan base. This is the poster child for how to act when your team sucks. Is the Golden State Warriors.
Yes,
People love this team. Loved them. Oh, it was amazing. It was really an amazing thing.
And every Kings fan, your origins are the Golden State Warriors. There are no Sacramento Kings without the Golden State Warriors. Do not forget that. The only reason why the Kansas City Kings picked Sacramento, a market that never had a pro team, has never had another one since, is because they saw how passionate and crazy those fans were for the Warriors. And they were like, why don't we move our team there? Because they love their basketball. And so if you're a Kings fan, remember that. All right. Your origins are the Warriors. And yeah.
And and then also we can't forget that Kings fans are Niners fans and Giants fans. So we're all rooting for the same teams anyway, except when it comes to Kings and Warriors. Oh, did you guys see the big old knockdown, drag out brawl at the watch party? The Kings watch party? You didn't see it?
No.
Baller?
No.
You didn't see it?
I've seen a couple fights with Warriors.
It was unbelievable, man. All kinds of guys were throwing hands.
No, I don't think I saw this.
This is at a watch party? What? I gotta look.
In the arena in Golden One. Go hit it up on either social media, maybe Twitter.
Yeah.
Type it in, and you'll just
today
see.
or yesterday.
No, it was the last game. The last game when the last road game.
I did see that.
So that would have been what, game 4?
Yeah, I saw that. That was funny.
Game 4. I mean, there was all kinds of guys getting thrown over, and I mean, seriously, you're gonna throw hands because of basketball team? Really?
It's probably alcohol more than anything.
I mean, my God.
I mean, I'm not a big fighter. The only few fights I've been in have all involved playing basketball.
Oh,
you're playing, someone starts jawing back. Next thing, first fight, 8th grade, I said, I'm Tracy McGrady. And I said, you ain't Tracy McGrady. That's how the first fight was, 8th grade. I thought I was T-Mac. That was my guy. So, and we're talking about the Warriors fan base. What made the dynasty feel so good and the way we're able to enjoy it so much is because of the struggle. The struggle that we had to go through with the Warriors just being a losing franchise. And that's why, even though the Warriors was always my squad, when you're looking around for your favorite players in the league, I'm looking around like, oh man, T-Mac's really good, or oh man, Nowitzki. But the Warriors, the fact that they were able to flip this thing, and Joey Lightyears, I got to apologize to him because I was one of those guys booing them that night. You know,
were you there?
No, I was at home. I was booing him from my couch. I'm saying,
I'm one of the. I think I'm one of the.
Monte.
I was one of the reasons. I was one of the reasons he got booed that night because me and Gary talked about it all morning, and I hated the idea of trading of Monte for Bogut. And I'm sure there were probably some people that we were swayed by our dialogue, but at that time, you know, I mean, the one thing there's correct narratives and then there's revisionist history. The part that I always have a hard time with is people act like Steph Curry would not have become Steph Curry if they didn't make that trade. And that's bullshit.
That's bullshit.
That's bullshit. And the other thing is, at the time, you got to remember, Monte Ellis was our star. Monte Ellis was the reason to go buy tickets. Monte Ellis was the guy that they were telling us for the previous 3 seasons, come see the game Friday night. Why? Because Monte Ellis. So a big part of like the Warrior fans, we were okay with losing, but we wanted it to be entertained. And you were trading away one of our most entertaining homegrown players for, at this time, a center who had missed a lot of games because of injuries, and also was nothing close to the same player offensively that he had been 3 or 4 years earlier because of an elbow injury. And so then Bogut comes in, and Steph takes off, and Clay takes off. But are you telling me that if the Warriors did not trade Monte Ellis for Bogut, that there was no other big man that they could have gotten to set a few picks, and that suddenly if you had Monte on this team coming off the bench with Steph and Clay starting, that they were just going to be horseshit? I don't buy it. It's like people point to that trade like Bogut was so absolutely integral. There's no question. He was a defender. He was a shot blocker. He was a great pick setter. He was very effective, changed their mindset. But there were other players that did a lot of those same things that they could have gone after that wouldn't have cost them necessarily Monte Ellis. This revisionist history that they traded Monte and that's why Steph became Steph. No. Steph was going to become Steph anyway.
Yeah. I was thrilled when the trade happened, largely because my whole life, and probably most of your life at least, the Warriors didn't have a true center. Like they just, that was a position that they can never fill. And Andrew Bogut was a former #1 pick who was still in his prime, even though that year you were starting to see his body break down a little bit because he had various injuries. So I was stoked that for the first time in my life, I saw the Golden State Warriors actually acquire a true center. And then on top of that, I never liked I'm guessing most people didn't. I never liked the Curry-Ellis pairing for obvious reasons. Monte himself, remember, spoke out and was like, this isn't going to work. And he wasn't thrilled that the Warriors acquired Curry. And together, they were a massive defensive liability. Like teams would just eat those two alive.
They were the Blazers. They were the Blazers with Lillard and McCollum. They had 2 6'3" guards.
But
I understand. I understand, but I mean, can we just not pretend that Andrew Bogut was way, way better than he was? He set some picks. He blocked a few shots. I mean, he was nothing. The Andrew Bogut who came out of Utah and played early in his career was a worlds better than the Bogut that was here. His offense was totally nothing by the time he got here. So, I don't know.
That's fair.
Bogut was good, but this idea that the Warriors would not have ascended if they hadn't made that trade, that's bullshit.
That's bullshit. Maybe you slow it down by a year, but Steph, regardless, would have been a great player. Like he would have still been the player he is now. It's just maybe the Warriors dynasty starts a year later. I don't know, but you're right. Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, I mean, it gets a little bit too much. It's like a little too convenient of a story. Like, oh God, without Bogut, there was other guys they could have gotten to set a couple picks and block a couple shots. Now, I like Bogut, but I mean,
well, he was kind of their facility. He was a facilitator too.
He was a facilitator.
I like Bogut,
but he mostly set picks and block shots.
He was an enforcer. I think that was what he was most important for to me. Is he was like
he changed their attitude. A little bit.
He suddenly was someone that you couldn't that prevented other teams from bullying the Warriors for the first time since, as somebody in your chat, where was it? I think Mark wrote Robert Parrish to Joe Barry Carroll. Ever since Joe Barry Carroll, they never had a center. They never had a center. Like, he was the last one. So we were talking like 30 years, man. So I was stoked. I was stoked on it. But I hear what you're saying too. It was a very overrated trade in terms of like its impact on the dynasty as a whole. I hear you on that.
Steph and Clay were coming, and that draft was Steph and Clay and Draymond and Barnes and I mean, come on. I mean, the Warriors drafted that was the other part that really made me mad as a Warrior fan. It was when people said after they got KD, "You guys just bought your title." What?
Fuck you.
Harrison Barnes drafted, Steph Curry drafted, Klay Thompson drafted, Draymond Green drafted. They drafted the whole damn team. They drafted their way out of the lottery.
That's LeBron. Those are LeBron fans who are bitter that the Warriors prevented him from winning more titles than Jordan. That's the only crowd that I ever hear spews that bullshit. Because even if you look at Andrew Wiggins, right? He was the product of Harrison Barnes. I mean, Harrison Barnes, who they drafted with the number 7 pick, turned it to Kevin Durant. That salary slot is how they got Kevin Durant. And it's also worth noting too that when they signed Kevin Durant, they were not in the luxury tax. Like, so when they signed Kevin Durant, they were able to do that because they were under the cap. So they managed their money very efficiently early on because of the fact that they drafted their players. And then Kevin Durant turned into arguably one of the greatest trades in recent history, which I'm still like blown away by. They basically essentially traded Kevin Durant for Andrew Wiggins and Jonathan Kuminga. It's fucking amazing. So
great trade. Spencer says, I remember Larry saying the beam will never be lit, and so many fans saying it won't be lit for the rest of the year. You're right. We were gloating. Gloating.
Larry, maybe you still could be right. You just might be off by a game, right? But you still
might
be right.
Maybe that's the theme. That's the theme of tonight's chat. I could still be right.
You can't. People are forgetting this. You predicted after game 1. You predicted this series was going to go 7 games and the Warriors were going to win in 7. I'm correct, right? You said that, didn't you?
I said.
Okay.
But I thought everybody would win at home until the end. Instead, the Warriors won game 5. Just because the stupidity of this one just has to be highlighted. JW.
Oh.
Curry gives up all the points he makes on the defensive end, lazy player.
Oh, you douche. That is just a douchey thing to write. That's just. And look, Joe Schmo writes.
I mean, seriously, a baller.
I mean, Curry
makes
like
sense.
The least
Makes sense of
player. You can't. I mean, if you watch Curry, the guy's running miles around the court just to try to get open and get the ball. Which, by the way, sometimes I want to just give Curry the ball a little more often and just say, "Hey, Curry, go to work." Maybe we'll see that. Like the first 3 minutes of the game, the Warriors had 0 points, and I'm saying, get the ball to Stephen Curry. Like that.
Oh, that's got to be the dumbest chat of the night. Curry gives up all the points he makes on the defensive end, and then just when you think, man, that guy's a fucking idiot, he drops a comma and says, "lazy player." And then when you're thinking, oh my God, this guy's the dumbest person alive. Wait a second. Wait for it. Joe Schmo.
Yes.
JW. Facts.
Oh, I think that's the cue to good call tonight, right? Are you gonna address your stars? Like you star all these comments. Some are good, right?
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Usually I do it after the commercial break.
Oh, I'm sorry, man.
That's okay. Let me let Baller out because Baller's been here since the beginning. Baller, you probably want a jet. It's already almost approaching 11 o'clock. So if you want a jet, we'll let you jet.
About that time, fellas. Nice talking with you. Hey, Warriors fans, let's be optimistic. I think the Warriors are pulling this thing out. Game 7, they got the experience. The Warriors haven't shot the ball well, really all series. But you know what? The way I look at it, they're due. I think we're going to get a better offensive performance. These veterans, Draymond Green, Kevon Looney, Steph Clay, these guys are going to show up. They're going to command the team. And Warriors are pulling it out. Game 7, NFL draft. 49ers, I'm not too
we'll wait and
see.
We'll wait and see.
I'm not too thrilled with what you guys did today, but hey, there's still another day of the draft to go tomorrow. They cleared up some space. Maybe it's to get a guy like Yannick Ngakoue. I think Larry.
They need a starting caliber edge. I don't know
want a
where it's coming
speed rusher.
from.
They're missing that element. I want a true Leo speed rusher opposite Bosa that's going to make quarterbacks step up right into Hargrave and Armstead. They need that. Ever since D4 didn't live up to expectations, like I think they wanted Ebukam maybe to be kind of that speed guy, but he wasn't. Like Ebukam was a good player, good run defender. You know, he's stout, but he wasn't giving you quite that speed, that bend off the edge. Drake Jackson, you know, year 2, we'll see. But I want a speed rusher. Hey, I'm going to be watching this draft. What's up?
Yeah, well, I was going to say, I think so many of the people in the chat who maybe only know you through this don't know that you have your own channel. So let's put that up there so people. Yeah, Baller's got his own channel. Bay Area nice. Baller 18. So I want everybody, 323 people here with almost 2.5 hours into this stream. Woo! If you're one of the 325 people here, hit like and subscribe right here on the Krug Show, and I thank you for it. But please, all of you, my man Baller has a great channel, Bay Area Baller 18. He talks Warriors, he talks Niners. Go to his channel, hit like, hit subscribe, help him build up his channel. Please do. You'll be doing me a huge favor. Bay Area Baller 18. You're not going to be regretting it because the content's awesome. But, brother, is there a time, maybe Sunday, Monday, maybe Saturday night, somewhere in the next 3-4 days after the draft that me and you could do a segment, on the channel, just me and you breaking down the Niner draft in its entirety, let's say 2-3 days from now?
Absolutely. I love it because I love the NFL draft. I love watching these prospects. And, I know I wasn't thrilled with Cameron Latu, but hey, I'm going to dig deeper in the film and see if I could see something that maybe I didn't spot initially. Yeah. Niners got more picks tomorrow. I'm going to put out my draft reactions and give you the feedback on my channel. So subscribe. And yeah, Larry, hit me up. We'll work it out. Cy, nice talking to you.
Yeah, brother. Always.
We'll talk soon.
And real quick before you go, I just want to make this clear. So you love kickers, and that was a good pick, right?
No, I think it was a reach. It was a reach. I will say, if he turns out to be, a top kicker, if it turns out to be Justin Tucker, I'm not going to complain. I'm obviously or Tyler Bass.
I
know, but I'm saying I'm not going to jump on it and say it sucks. I hate it quite because if he does turn out to be a stud, then I'll understand it because the kicker position is important, and he's going to be under a microscope.
Hey,
if he's making kicks, I'm okay. If he's missing kicks, I'm going to be furious.
Full honesty here. Full honesty. Last year, 7th round, watching the draft, last pick's coming up, and the 49ers with Mr. Irrelevant, final pick in the draft. Brock Purdy, Iowa State. My honest reaction. Fuck. Really? No, seriously. I was like, oh, really? Brock Purdy? That kind of weak-armed, small college guy. Just kind of, I knew he'd had success at Iowa State, but I'm like, really? You drafted a backup quarterback? Look how many linebackers and look how many different great players there are on the board. Oh, really? Then a buddy of mine said, hey, Krug, this guy's a road scout, and he's been working for the Carolina Panthers the last 10 years. He's like, Krug, sent me a text. Hey, you guys got Brock Purdy? This is the day after. And I'm like, yeah, man, that sucks. I was kind of pissed about that. He's like, well, oh, no, good dude. You got to go watch him. Go watch him. You haven't watched him, have you? I said, well, I saw some of his games. He's like, no. Krug, go do a deep dive. Go spend 2-3 hours watching all of the things, reading. Do what you normally do. Go do your deep dive on this guy and come back to me. So I did. I spent like 3 hours watching every video, typed him into every search engine I could find, read every article I could find, literally went through and just immersed myself for like 3-4 hours in Brock Purdy. And I came out of that 3-4 hours going, son of a bitch. Guy's right. This guy's got a little something to him. Can't wait to see him in minicamp. Saw him in minicamp and thought, this guy looks good. But I'm not going to say anything because it's still just minicamp. I'm going to wait till training camp. Go to training camp. He starts looking great. in training camp. I'm like throwing on the run, hitting guys in stride, looking very much like the most accurate quarterback on the field next to Trey Lance. And I'm like, wow, this guy looks good. This guy looks good. I see Tim Ryan out of practice. I'm like, Tim, bro, this guy looks good. And he's like, damn right, brother. You know, so we're talking about Brock Purdy going to the first preseason game. Do you remember that first preseason game? He operated the 2-minute he operated the fourth quarter like he ran out the clock. He ran the play clock down to 1 on every play call. I've never seen a rookie quarterback do that. It showed a level of understanding and competitiveness and veteranness that I was like, wow, they got something. Then the next preseason game, I'm like, if this guy comes out and does it again, I am all in. Sure enough, strike. I tell my 13-year-old as we're watching the preseason game, he's like, Dad, who is this guy? I'm like, dude, kid, this guy's good. Watch him. So now me and my 13-year-old are sitting there. I got him believing in Brock Purdy. That's when I finally said, you know what? Brock Purdy's damn good. And people were still into the Nate Sudfeld thing. So I was just a little bit ahead of others because I had done the deep dive and I had a professional personnel evaluator tell me, your first blush is wrong, and the Niner scouts are sharp as hell. And go give this kid 2-3 hours of your time and see for yourself. And damn if he wasn't right. And so that's all that happened there. I was just a little bit ahead of the other people. The same thing I did, I'm sure all these other people did after he made the team, but I did it in April. So by the time I got to training camp, I was kind of pretty much already all in on the guy, and then I just needed to see a little glimpse of it. And when I saw it, I said, hey, this guy's the guy. So I'm no genius. I thought the guy was terrible when he was drafted. But,
yes, you are. You're a genius.
I saw it after my buddy, who gets paid a 6-figure salary to scout, said, bro, man to man, this guy, I really think this guy's good. So, you know what? That's an advantage I have, because not everybody has a good buddy who they trust and know, and who would vouch for a player. This guy vouched for the player. I bought in. I started to see the greatness. I said it. I was ahead of those people, but I wasn't ahead of him, and I wasn't ahead of whoever it was, Slowick for the Niners, who picked him out and said, we love this kid. So, you know what? All I'll say is, same thing with this Cam Latu from Bama. I have my opinions. Baller has his opinions. It's fine to voice your opinions, but we could be fucking wrong, okay? I've been wrong before, and I will be wrong again. So,
you're human. Okay.
and I'm not saying that because I don't like Latu today that he's not going to make it or he's a bust. I just got to watch more and see what they saw, and I got to hear what they say about him, because I just right now, based on what I've seen, I don't see it, but it doesn't mean that I won't. I just got to watch more. I'm not looking to love him, but I'll watch more. I'll give it more time. So that's my soliloquy.
Cool.
All right,
fellas. Talk soon.
There you go, Bay Area baller.
That was fast. All right. Bye-bye.
All right, we're gonna play a spot here, and then we're gonna come back for the star chats. Nice. You ready to hang for the star chat side?
I'm in, man. I'm with you.
All right, here we go. First, a word from our sponsor. We're brought to you by Pig and a Pickle. Check them out. Emeryville, open Wednesday through Sunday. Open 7 days a week in Marin County, and it looks like this.
Oh, real quick before. Hey.
Yes.
Oh, you stopped it? I was going to say real quick, somebody in the chat offered to take us two and Baller out for some free Pig and a Pickle and some drinks and stuff. Did you just start that one?
I don't know, but we'll come back.
Yeah, let's take
Hold on.
Offer. Where
Give that.
Sorry.
All right, here we go. It looks like this.
with a Sunday dinner. That means no matter how busy you were, no matter where the hell you were, you came to dinner on a Sunday night. Yeah, Sunday dinner without sausage, it's like a church without God. You know, how can you go to church if you don't believe in God? You know, and along with the sausage also became the discussions. That was discussion night. You know, it wasn't a typical family that you sit there and you're quiet, you know, and you don't talk with a mouthful. Oh no, man. Italians talk when they're eating. Italians even talk when they're sleeping. And definitely we talk with our hands. So if we can't express it through our mouth, through our lips, we express it with our hands. So, and that's what sausage is, really. It's an expression, you know, that life is good.
I love Pasquale. Love that guy.
Pasquale, there you go. Okay, let's go to the starred chats. All right. MF says, love the picks.
Ooh.
John Lynch.
Ooh.
Car God says, what did I tell you? All Jake Moody. That's right, Car Gods. He predicted that one. Car Gods, Cameron Latu replacing Kittle. I don't know about that.
Not yet.
Spencer
Brandon.
Alsey, 49ers going to trade for Chase Young? Wouldn't that be
No.
interesting? Tammy McDaniel, trade Jordan Poole. The Warriors need more veterans with playoff experience.
And just realistically, if that trade happens, you're probably going to have to include. I forgot who said that earlier, but I agree. You're probably going to have to attach a first round pick with it, just because who else? No, you're going to have to incentivize someone else getting that contract, and you're also going to probably have to get a bad contract back in return. Man, yeah, they're screwed with that one.
Senior softball games. Cy is on a Kuminga rant right now.
Well, this is coming from a Kings fan, so go F yourself.
C.H. Chung, baller speaks the truth. Worst hour in recent sports history was the end there with the draft and the Warriors. Elias Soto, Grant Cohn thought the Kings draft, the kicker draft was an F. LOL. Jaime Contreras, 49er draft is whack. Mortigan, this season should be called the fuck around and find out season. Brian Iglesias, 49ers.
The Niners or Warriors?
He's talking about the Warriors.
Okay, yeah.
Warriors. Brian Iglesias, the 49ers will not pick up Javon Kinlaw's fifth-year option per John Lynch, another failed pickup. That one hurts. MF, Larry Gigantes in Mexico this weekend. Tim Donaghy's Krug Matu goes number 76 to the Pat Stingers up. That's Marpe. Was it Marpe Matu? No, it's Marte Mapu. He's confusing me by saying Matu. It's Mapu. Mapu went to the Patriots. Yeah, I did see that.
The Giants are in Mexico?
Mexico City, yep. Tomorrow and the next day. Artur says, I'm hoping for a Lance Padres, I think.
Oh, okay.
I think.
Right.
Artur says, I'm hoping for a Lance trade for Montez Sweat with the Commanders. Jose Bautista, Larry Scaredy Crow. Yeah, this is the guy.
You troll. God damn.
Artur says, trade for Sweat, then draft DTR in the fourth round, and we're all set. Lucas, we need to beef up the O-line, Larry. Russell says kickers are people too. Jose, Larry's scared to admit he was wrong on Trey. Jesus. How many? Guy sent me like 20. Green glass full. The only thing I'm bummed about is that Krug might have to buy that guy Ryan who doesn't know S about football lunch. LOL. Love Larry's content. I think Larry's thought this was going to be a celebration stream.
Oh, it could have been.
Al Felipe, breaking news. The Niners will not pick up Javon Kinlaw's fifth-year option. GM Lynch confirms. Artur says, because he's not good.
Oh.
He's not good.
Okay.
Artur says, Krug, how in the world do you have all this information between 3 sports and 3 teams in your head, dude, with prospects and all? Even being a Niner content creator is a full-time job. You are a machine.
Agreed.
Artur says, Krug, when you buy Hensley dinner, you should secretly load it up with the strongest hot sauce and make it bittersweet victory for him.
Put an eye drop in there too.
Yeah. Car Gods, Jake Hayner will replace Trey. Larry, you got this. Wow. MF, trade Trey. Wow, MF. SF Giants Mania. Larry, you clearly said Trey was getting dealt this weekend, not 2 weeks from today or the start of the season. This weekend, all caps.
What do you want, a cookie? I mean, what the fuck? Jesus Christ.
Seriously. Get an effing life. Calba, Cy, there are lots of Lance bros that will call you a hater if you don't think Lance is the GOAT. And if you listen to Lance's words about his situation, it's obvious that Trey is also a Lance hater. I don't know about that. Tammy McDaniel, exactly. Larry Poole is checked out. Joe Schmidt, Krug, what do you think about DTR? I think he's a sleeper. He's improved a lot reading the field at UCLA, and he's a good arm, and he's accurate. I definitely like him. Is that Bubba?
Yeah, it was Bubba. Something just suddenly riled him up. Yeah, he was just passed out for hours and just dogs, right?
Cheshire Cat. Larry has strong dad energy. I see Larry being very regimented about his routines.
Actually, I don't know you. I don't know you much in terms of your parenting. Like, is that true?
No.
Well, how are you as a dad? Are you strict? Are you?
No, I'm not strict. I'm pretty loose. I'm actually not very strict. I probably should be more strict.
You're doing fine.
Velo or Velo says this is an elite quarterback heavy league. Brock is mid, to be honest.
Oh,
guy was undefeated in the regular season. Sounds a little bit better than mid to me.
Yeah,
Mark Hope, Larry is the legend dad. Oh, thank you. Appreciate that. All right, Cy, good stuff. I got to go make some draft videos. The boss of the channel, my son, is getting mad at me, saying that I stayed too long with the live stream. I need to be making videos.
Oh, so all right. Well, there you go.
There you go.
Thank you,
Mark Hope says, great show. Larry and Cy, and of course, Baller and Red. Danny sat this one out. Rye sat this one out. They were invited.
Yeah, that was a weird one. Yeah, I was expecting them. So, all right. Well, considering that this was a really down night, I thought we did okay, right? I mean, given the setting, I mean, you're drafting kickers, you're losing game sixes.
I know.
Seriously,
it's hot. I'm sweating.
Oh my God, Jesus.
It's brutal.
Yeah,
it's a brutal day.
Yes, it is.
All right, brother. Good to see you, man.
Yeah.
Talk to you soon. There you go. The great Cy Satsis stopping by. All right, that does it for us. Thanks to everybody. Thanks to all the sponsors. Thanks to all of you. Once again, Brock is mid. Come on, Velo. Mid for Brock Purdy? Undefeated? I wish we all could be so mid. All right, that does it for us. Have a great night, everybody. Until next time, check me out tomorrow, day 3 of the draft. Alex Barber is going to stop by at the end of the draft. We'll get his breakdown on it. Have a great night, everybody. Will Trey get traded? Well, he hasn't gotten traded on day 1 or day 2. If it doesn't happen tomorrow, then obviously it didn't happen to the draft, and I will fall on my sword until then. Peace.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared of. Careful, you gon' get exactly what you asked for. Careful, whatever you bring me, getting handled.